All right, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at in the world. We're going to be getting started, very shortly. Apologize, my game sounds a little loud. Let me turn that down ever so slightly. Kind of startled me there. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Just kind of take these all down a slight notch here. Okay. And we'll get back over to the custom battles versus the AI. So yes, I'm not allowed to show multiplayer yet, but I can show custom battles versus the AI and the interface and so forth for that. So let's jump in here and take a look. I wanted to do a little bit of testing with the Demons of Chaos. They do have access to almost all the demons in the game. Technically, they don't have the Heralds or the Exalted Greater Demons. They don't have the Lord level God-specific demons, but they do have the heroes and all of the demon units, so we can look at that. They don't have the mortals. We could look at Khorne too as well. I'm allowed to show Khorne right now, so we could show off that if you guys want to see some of that stuff in comparison. But for the time being, let's jump on in here and I can show you guys what's up. So no, I can't show anything from Kids Lab. I can show Cathay. I can't show anything of ogres, so we're going to primarily be sticking to demons today. I just kind of wanted to show you guys how some of the demon infantry compares to each other and just sort of what you can expect. So let's talk about your standard quote-unquote demon infantry, right? We'll start off with the mid-tier since all four factions have these mid-tier infantry here. So you've got obviously the Bloodletters, anti-infantry AP, good charge bonus, generally great on offense. They also have spell resistance. All of them, you'll notice, have physical resistance. But the Khorne's special ability is he's got spell resistance and just great stats in general. The Demonettes are faster, substantially faster, but much squishier. You can see the difference in HP of 1,500, which is significant. Only 5 armor as well. They do actually have better sustained melee stats, but that lower HP means in practice they're going to be much flimsier in melee. They do have less charge, although keep in mind they've got the devastating flanker, which means charge bonus in the side or rear is doubled. Not the biggest fan of Demonettes as they currently are. They can be pretty decent, but they're just so flimsy. They're going to be tricky to make work. You definitely need to have good micro, but that fast speed certainly is a benefit. Same cannot be said of the Plague Bearers, which are literally the opposite. They have not quite double the HP, but like pretty close actually. They're up to 11,000 HP, 11,600 to be exact. With 100 models, that means they're over 100 HP per model, right? And just so you guys know, I mean, you can go to twwstats.com if you want to look at the stats for Total War Warhammer 2 units. I have it pulled up here just in case. I wanted to do some comparisons, but like Black Orcs, who I think have the highest HP of any infantry model in Warhammer 2, have 135 health per model, right? So, I mean, we're getting up within that range. Most cavalry models don't even have that much HP, so the Plague Bearers are extremely meaty. Again, magic damage, they also pick up poison. Literally all of the Nurgle demons have poison, like literally every single one. So, yeah, if you thought Lizardman was bad in terms of poison, just wait for these guys. Tzeentch, of course, is a shooting infantry, unlike all the others, which are melee only. Tzeentch being known for shooting attacks, very high DPS. It's like a crossbow attack, more or less. 5 AP with 15 base missile damage, only 130 range, which is shorter than a lot of bows, but still decently long. And 20 ammunition, of course, flaming magic damage as well. Flaming attacks, it should be noted, do nerf healing in Total War Warhammer 3, so it's always a benefit to have that, unless you're fighting something with fire resistance, which basically nothing does in the game right now. Later on down the line, you know, like Dragon Princes, for example, for High Elves, missile block chance plus fire resistance, they're going to be very strong against Tzeentch for sure. But anyway, so there's your kind of standard demon infantry here. Yeah, Plague Bearers, the thing to notice about Plague Bearers is they have 23 speed. Like, literally, zombies will outrun them. You know what I'm saying? So, that is something to consider. But I can't really talk too much right now, but let's say, you know, in a situation where you might need to hold a capture point in a siege or a survival battle, you know, one of the survival battles at the end of one of the Chaos Realms, or in any other situation, let's say, where you might need to hold a capture point. A unit that's really tanky, that's good at holding ground, can benefit you greatly in that situation, if you see what I'm saying. So, yeah, the Plague Bearers, and like we talked earlier a little bit in the chat before the stream, about Warriors of Khorne as well, which I could show you, actually. I have Khorne on the other side here, so we can look at his roster as well. Like Warriors of Khorne, you know, 40 melee defense, 100 armor, silver shield, 55% missile block chance, right? They are great at holding a point as well. So, you know, it's something to consider. Like, for example, Demonettes are really not very good at holding points. Nurglings and Blue Horrors, though, the two kind of meat shield tier of demon infantry. Nurglings do have Vanguard, which is awesome. And they're fairly tanky. Again, lots of HP per model. 60 unit models and 8,000 HP. So, pretty substantial amount of HP per model, all things considered. Their stats are also pretty decent, especially when you factor in Nurgle's army ability, which is Cloud of Flies, plus 9 melee defense after they've been in melee for 15 seconds. So that puts them up, you know, within the 30s melee defense range, which is about on par for kind of a sort of low-tier infantry. You think about like Empire Spearmen or, you know, State Troops. They have within that range of melee defense, right? Again, poison magic damage and physical resistance, also 34 speed, which is a benefit for Nurgle units. To have anywhere, you know, above like 30 speed is massive for them. So something to consider there. And then, of course, the Blue Horrors, they're 160 models, which is a lot of unit models. They only have 5 shots, but quite a bit of shooting potential just because of that. Only 90 range too, again, somewhat short, but at the same time, pretty good AP, 2 AP per shot. I'd have to compare this to like a Free Company shooting attack, but it seems pretty similar, to be honest. Only 400 points as well, so they're kind of within a similar price range. Similar to in terms of offensive potential, like kind of lowish melee attack and defense, but not too low. They're somewhat of a hybrid unit. They're not really necessarily missile infantry, according to the game, right? You recruit them from the regular infantry line. But yeah, flaming attacks, again, as with other Tzeentch stuff. So yeah, then you've got the high tier, right? The upper tier, the Exalted, Plague Bearers, Demonettes, Bloodletters, and the Pink Horrors, which just gain more stuff. So with the Exalted Demonettes, you get the Charmed ability that the Sirens have currently in Total War Warhammer 2. That's combined with the Soporific Musk, which we'll talk more about in just a minute from the Fiends here, is an additional -5 melee attack and defense. So you can get some pretty good passive, but also, again, expensive, squishy infantry. They do have more HP than the the regular Demonettes, which is definitely a benefit. And very good sustained melee stats. Decent charge bonus as well. And then this Soul Scent also, effect intensity increases by each enemy unit in range with morale wavering or lower. So when units are wavering or routing around them, they actually get a power spike, which is arguably not the most useful ability in the world, but definitely very cool. And certainly if you can come in and shock a couple of units very quickly, which is definitely Slaaneish's thing, you might be able to get some good benefit from this. Yeah, 54 speed too, which is just ridiculous on infantry, it should be said. The Exalted Plague Bears over the regular Plague Bears pick up an additional 1600 HP, so these guys legitimately have as much HP as Black Orcs. In fact, I think I have Black Orcs card up here. Yeah, because they have more unit models, they have more health overall as a unit than Black Orcs do, but very similar HP per model. 40 melee defense is pretty decent. 52 weapon strength, also not bad with 18 AP. They do pick up a shooting attack as well, kind of a little precursor. 2 volleys of this AP poison shooting attack with 70 range. It's not wildly useful, but it is there. The Exalted Bloodletters pick up flaming damage and just have really strong stats. I mean, this is pretty good for, considering how expensive they are. It's a little bit tricky. You know, you'd have to compare them to something like, even like Swordmasters, but 31 armor piercing with 13 bonuses versus infantry, 36 charge bonus as well. Definitely pretty solid. And again, that flaming magic damage does benefit them in a number of situations. And of course, the Exalted Pink Horrors, again, just bigger, better Pink Horrors. better stats. They have this better shooting attack, does even more damage, 7 AP per shot. Very devastating. Definitely if they can open up. And then they also gain this Arcane Mirth, so you get a little bit of passive Winds of Magic regeneration, which is definitely very important for Tzeentch. So there's kind of your breakdown of your basic Demon Infantry. Oh, this right here. So this is good question. Thank you for bringing this up. Shadow Whoop 163. This is Lord loading. So you can save characters in campaign, and then you can come in and load them if it's enabled. So if I show you guys some of the options here as well. So you'll see funds, just default funds here. You could do custom funds. That's kind of your two options. Ultra unit scale is now the default. So we also were having this discussion earlier. I should just point out, if I go to large unit sizes and then look, this guy has 300 weapon strength. If we go to ultra unit sizes and I come in here, he now has 400 weapon strength. So single entity weapon strength and missile strength too should scale along with unit size. That is one kind of quality of life improvement for those people who choose to play on smaller unit sizes. The majority of people choose to play on ultra though, which is why I'm glad that for multiplayer they've decided to just make the default ultra. So we'll be sticking to that. But anyway, I wanted to show you here, there's this option for character loading. So you can toggle this, and obviously this won't be enabled for ranked multiplayer. Demons of Chaos themselves won't even be available for ranked multiplayer, and likely won't be available in most tournaments as well. So just keep that in mind as we look through. I'm just showing off demons today because it allows me to demonstrate all the different Demons of Chaos kind of on one roster. But anyway, so if I show you here, I can load up. I've got Samurai Warrior here sent me a save for reasons, so I've got him saved on here. His Demon Prince, and then I've also got my own Demon Prince from my campaign I streamed a couple days ago, Mr. Balrog Baggins, so I could load him up here, and then he has all of his abilities. The items won't save, but the actual abilities will. I'm hoping that gets changed so that it'll actually save the items too. But for the Demon Princes, it doesn't really matter. It'll save all the abilities associated with your body parts and your stat loadout and everything. So for the Demon Princes specifically, it's a really cool feature. If you want to play with your friends, or, you know, like I have now for my Patreon, I've released a reward tier where $15 and up patrons can nominate character type to be saved as if they would like, so that, you know, when I'm playing games with my patrons or you know, in my campaigns of the appropriate faction, I can hire them in or use them in games and just have a good time in that way. But yeah, character loading, that's a thing now. Again, won't be available for ranked and tournaments, but I don't know, maybe I'll do a saved character tournament at some point. That could be kind of fun, just as a change of pace. So, okay, we'll get to the Tzeentch shooting, yes. So I just kind of wanted to cover the basic Demon Infantry, which we have done. Now, yes, let's move on to some more God-specific stuff. A lot of the Khorne things have already been showed off in pretty good detail, so we're not going to talk too much about it there. But let's actually jump in, and I'm just going to have this guy come in with, like, a big old stack of warriors with Khorne that we can mess with here. And let's just go for, sure, generic Chaos Waste map. And we'll just have him bring in a bunch of Khorne warriors, and then I can come in here and we'll just kind of test performance of some different Demon Infantry and see how they do. You guys can get a feel for their performance against some specific kind of mid-tier, very strong mid-tier shielded infantry, should be said. Frenzy, you know, 40 melee defense, 100 armor, good leadership. Anyway. I mean, I'm running this on a laptop, Iron Thunder, and I haven't had any issues, you know, in-game playing or you know, in casting games as well, and recording games. I haven't had really too many issues, so I think people will be fine. There's not that much of a benefit in performance. There's other things you can do that will have a greater effect on performance and allow you to play just fine on ultra unit sizes. Like, a lot of graphics cards of settings, for whatever reason, will just default to, okay, let's get these guys kind of organized so they're together Nurgle in the center. Okay, and then we'll have the Tzeentch shooting right behind them. And let's get the Demonettes out on the left flank. And we'll get the Bloodletters out on the right flank. Whoops. There we go. Everyone's all lined up together now. Perfect. Forgot to take off Herald's abilities. Might mess with your testing. It's true. And this, granted, I should have caveated this already, but you shouldn't take this testing to be accurate reflection of how your units will perform in battle for a number of reasons. Number one is variability. Like I'm only testing one of each unit, which is definitely not enough. Because of the kind of variability in terms of how the stats work in this game, there will be absolutely some randomness in how the outcomes are decided. So you shouldn't really take any of this testing as gospel. It's just kind of fun to see, and you know, mostly for entertainment purposes, let's say. Somewhat educational, but not, yeah. Anyway, kind of get distracted here. Let's take a look at what we can do. The Nurglings are going to obviously lose this fight, but I'm curious to see just how long they could potentially hold. Bloodletters are also coming up here. The Demonettes, I mean, we could charge them straight in, but ideally you'd want to charge them in the flank, right? So could perhaps consider that. Let's move up, and these guys do have a missile block chance, so I'm not expecting the shooting attack to do a lot here, but let's see what it does. And same thing, we can have the blue horrors kind of move up and do their thing. The AI is cooperating very nicely right now. So, yeah, I mean, pretty solid damage, not anything crazy. Again, their melee prowess and the fact they have so much HP is the primary reason you bring them. You don't really bring them for the shooting attack. It's more of just a minor benefit. But again, the missile block chance of the Warriors of Khorne does matter quite a bit here. You can see the blue horrors are really not doing a lot to them. This is not a good target for them to be shooting at, to be honest. Bloodletters or another demon infantry that's, you know, low armor, relying on their physical resistance would be a much better target to shoot at. So, yeah, not really too much to write home about there. But now that those Plague Bearers have used some of their volleys, we can have them move into combat here, get these Plague Bearers moving in there. And the AI is probably not going to give me any more good kind of direct engagements, but let's fall back with the Demonettes. They definitely have the speed to not take this engagement. Let's check some of the damage here on these Chaos Warriors that are facing towards us now. Plague Bearers definitely will hold for some time. These guys are actually getting flanked and attacked by the Herald, which is not the greatest indication for them, but they should do okay. We really should have had the Slaanesh gals over on that side, but that's fine. So yeah, you can see the shooting performance against the heavy infantry like Khorne. We'll do another test after this with Bloodletters, and you can see the difference in damage. Really not super impressive, given their missile block chance and armor, but let's swing these Bloodletters way out wide over here and see if we can get these Chaos Warriors to come attack me. They're probably just going to keep chasing the Demonettes, but yeah, you can see how well the Plague Bearers here are holding, the ones that aren't getting flanked and attacked by a character. I mean, they are just standing firm, and the Nurglings too. I mean, considering how cheap they are, they're holding up this Warrior of Chaos for quite some time, which is kind of the role that you would want them in, right? The other thing too is, like, I could be dropping a side charge here from the Demon Prince or whatever other power units I have. So, and Nurgling's definitely a very good tar pit unit, so let's actually drop and see if we can get a rear charge here with these Exalted Demonettes into the side of this Warrior of Chaos. No, it looks like they turned around at the last second, so we probably won't double the charge bonus there. Well, we might actually, but pretty significant damage, definitely. And the Charmed effect does just like 100% remove the Frenzy effect, so yeah, in a flank attack, obviously going to be very good with armor piercing, but these guys eventually will get surrounded. Totally forgot about my Bloodletters. That's fine. And the thing is, too, like, unless you're testing with a player, like, testing against the AI is pretty difficult because they don't really want to cooperate, but blue horrors used up all their ammo. They can fight in melee now. Pink horrors, too. I just let my exalted pink horrors get completely ripped up in melee there, but you can see they're definitely, I mean, they're alright melee units, but they're not going to stand up to a dedicated heavy melee infantry. Bloodletters, on the other hand, should absolutely clean up shop. I mean, that Chaos Warrior was already a little weakened, so that Exalted Bloodletter, I mean, they took literally no losses there. So this is a pretty ideal engagement for them, you know, kind of a defensive heavy infantry. Their anti-infantry AP obviously is going to be quite strong here, so... Excellent. The Demonettes, you can see now that their charge bonus wore off and then they're in a sustained fight against those Chaos Warriors, it's starting to turn against them pretty severely. So let's take advantage of their speed and just disengage here. You can see we're pretty easily able to just fully disengage, which is honestly kind of impressive for infantry. Demon Prince, you need to go deal with this Herald Bro and get him to stop interrupting my testing, please. Demonettes, bring him in for a cycle charge here and see if we can actually proc the charge bonus. Doesn't look like these guys probably do. Not all their models are extricated, but Bloodletter's coming in, cleaning up some massive damage as to be expected. Oop, oop. I'm getting my own charges trolled by the AI. The nice thing about Demonettes is, I mean, if I don't like the engagement, I can just, like, run away. And I will take a little bit of damage on the disengage, but notice with the army abilities here, the army abilities are, for the Warriors of Chaos, it's generated by your Lord dealing damage, and then it'll just give you random army abilities from the other 4 Chaos Gods, so... Like right now, see, Reign of Chaos, 25% chance for all those different ones. Looks like we got the entities cannot die while this is active. Let's actually pop that on those Demonettes. You'll notice, too, that the game slowed down briefly. You've probably seen that in campaigns. Another quality of life change when you're casting spells or abilities in single-player modes. Obviously not in multiplayer, but in single-player modes, they will... the game will slow down time just ever so briefly, go into slow motion while you cast your ability or spell, so you can get the perfect placement. Nice little quality of life change, honestly. But again, we can just disengage with the Demonettes, run around here and rear charge while the Bloodletters screen. So, yeah, we'll do another test with the Tzeentch shooting against some Bloodletters. You guys can see how the damage stacks up against a more ideal target for them. But this test definitely showed the value of the Bloodletters, right? They did very well, obviously, here. The Plague Bearers, all things considered, were able to hold up for quite some time, even if they didn't win. They did get pretty outnumbered there, though. That's kind of on me with the nature of this test. Again, testing versus the AI, a little bit tricky. The Demonettes also showed how in a sustained fight, they will just fall over. But if you're on top of your micro cycle charging them, they can cycle charge like regular infantry even just fine. So definitely fun stuff there. So far, it doesn't seem so. Like, Cathay and Kislev both, right, don't have any army abilities, and that's not anything new. I mean, that's public information. Certainly, Cathay I could show you guys right now, but Kislev, I mean, even back when I did the survival battle, you know, last year, they didn't have any army abilities. They have their army ability is on their units. Sort of like how other factions, like martial prowess, is on their units. So I don't expect... a lot of the old factions, like I think, you know, Murderous Prowess, Martial Prowess, Wa, a lot of like those type of army abilities, I don't think they're going to change much. I think maybe they'll make it activatable. I don't know. Maybe they'll make more tiers. Who knows? Honestly, they could change it, but I don't know. I don't really see them doing too much on that front, considering that Kislev and Cathay don't have those army abilities, and they're just fine without them. I could show you guys whatever in terms of like basically any of these types of maps, just not domination. Anyway, so that's the demon infantry here. Let's come in and set up another quick test with some also, yeah, just take all those abilities off. And let's just grab some Bloodletters. And I will swap out. And we can take a look at some Tzeentch shooting. And speaking of Tzeentch shooting, someone was asking about Flamers. So let's get some flamers. I'll also get an exalted flamer. The exalted flamer and the burning chariot literally have the exact same shooting attack. The only difference is one is from a high angle, one's from a low angle. So, yeah, I'll just bring an exalted flamer and show you from the low angle, and maybe on another test we can do the other guy. Should I also bring... I think that'll do for this test. Let's see. Look through some other maps here. Frolic Fields in the Slanesh Wastelands. Okay, I'm down for frolicking fields. Nurgle surely has healing abilities. Oh yeah, I can go through the heroes and like lores of magic and stuff. One of Nurgle's army abilities is a heal, and then he also has a spell that heals. And yeah, and then some of his units do have regeneration. Like the Beast of Nurgle has regeneration. The Spawn of Nurgle, actually, they ended up not getting regeneration. I think at one point they said they were going to, but it actually probably made them too strong, to be honest. Anyway, let's just line up here. And there's some like woods on this map, which I don't totally love, so we're gonna try and avoid those as much as possible, but okay. Yeah, you know what? I'll come like back up here so we can get lots of open shooting, and we'll get the flamers over here as well. The flamers do armor piercing, so I could have brought Khorne infantry to also show you the damage there, and maybe we'll do that also. Frolicking fields. Oh, there we go. I don't know. I am not going to be allowing Demons of Chaos in tournaments. I mean, like I said, I might do one once in a while that allows for Lord Saving and Demons of Chaos and like campaign-only units and stuff. Just that anything goes. Not necessarily anything goes, still with unit caps, but yeah. Once you kind of know how to use demons, they are ridiculously overpowered, because there's some direct synergies too. Like a lot of the Khorne units deal fire damage, right? You've got this warp flame effect that a lot of the Tzeentch units have access to, which increases fire damage and lowers armor. Like you can potentially be healing your very strong Khorne units also with your Nurgle healing spells. So I don't think I'm gonna be allowing them in tournaments. Like it's maybe. Big maybe, but most likely not. I mean, they haven't included them in ranked matchmaking, so okay, let's start shooting here. See the damage, and you see the damage on those volleys there, especially from the Exalteds, is pretty real. For the regular blue and pink horrors, not so much, but oh, the flamers, oh yeah. Oof, look at that. That's from one single entity shot, and then the unit of flamers is where it really starts to get just... I mean, yeah, the blue horrors, you can see they don't do that much, but the flamers are pretty legit. And this is even on a unit that's like not at all bunched up. Once this unit kind of bunches itself up, we'll get a side shot in here, just directly into the side. Come on, guys, come on. There we go. Oh yeah, I didn't really have the health bar visible there, but you can see basically from that one volley, pretty much, they're just about to break, so. I mean, flamers are everything that, like, every other flamethrower unit in this game wishes it was, pretty much. So, yeah, even with just a little bit of shooting on the approach, I mean, obviously the Bloodletters are going to win once they get into combat, right? But for Tzeentch, the thing is, because the blue horrors are so cheap, you can amass like a huge presence of blue and pink horrors and just absolutely mow your opponent down. Like it's very, very high DPS. Plus, the fact that you don't have AP shooting on your horrors isn't really the biggest issue. You have some direct fire synergy With the Warp Flame effects, you can get synergy through Lore of Metal. You have access to Lore of Metal, right? So you can just cast, Plague of Rust, and then all of a sudden, all of that shooting, especially on something with 0 armor, is just going to be doing even more damage, right? You also have access to Lore of Fire, so you can be proccing Kindle Flames by just throwing fireballs with your Cultist, who also has a summon, and yeah, the fact that these Flamers are also 50 speed, this is not ridiculously fast, but they're 50 speed, 90 range, which is somewhat limited, and they're very squishy in combat. I mean, they do armor piercing, but super weak melee stats, but the shooting is just ridiculous, and this Demon Bro is even crumbling, but let's see if I can get my Exalted Flamer in a position to shoot him. So he's already taking a little bit of damage from the Banishment, but let's see if we can make contact. Ooh, yeah, even on a single entity, like a foot character-sized single entity, you can still make decent contact with that, so... I really think you guys who are kind of prejudging without having played, it's hilarious how you're just like making judgments without really having seen any actual multiplayer footage, or, I mean, it's just looking purely based on certain things. And Nurgle does have regeneration, right? You have Beast of Nurgle has regeneration. This guy does not have regeneration, but you've got this spell here, right? Which gives you Fleshy Abundance. Is a very strong heal. Here it is. Yeah, Fleshy Abundance, a ridiculously strong heal as well. Yeah, trust me, Nurgle's going to be just fine. This guy, let's see, does he have any other Nurgle abilities? This Grand Vomitus, this is a Nurgle Demon Prince loadout that the Demons of Chaos have access to. Let's see. Chance of instantly dying. Okay, that's a self-heal. That seems kind of weird and bad. But, yeah, I mean... Also, keep in mind, again, just ridiculously huge HP pools. Yeah, and then +9 melee defense on Cloud of Flies, which does actually matter quite a bit. And the thing is, I mean, you say, besides this cheap chaff, but all of this mid-tier stuff is, like, really strong mid-tier stuff, right? Like, even consider the Flamers are only 850, you've got the Beast of Nurgle's only 800, Screamers are anti-large AP, they're fairly flimsy, but they can dish out a huge amount of damage against, like, heavy cavalry or something on the charge. The Flesh Hounds are also very strong, 65 weapon strength, 46 charge for 700 points. Basically like a light cavalry unit with magic damage, too, and physical and spell resistance. I mean, just... super, super good. Plague Toads are pretty good anti-infantry, fairly cheap, awesome mass, poison damage. I don't know. Yeah, all the demons, like this cheaper stuff, the Secret Chariots too. Again, another really strong mid-tier unit, 800 points, 50 charge bonus, which goes up to 100 when charging in the side or rear. Only 40 armor, pretty low HP, but definitely very solid damage. 22 anti-infantry. Again, poison with magic and literally 100 speed, so with that poison and the speed, you can outrun anything in the game. Like, yeah. Let's go move on to another test, though. I wanted to see, this one's just more for me, Soul Grinders. So, you have these 4 different Soul Grinders, and they all do different things, right? The Nurgle one has an artillery range, 3 shots per volley kind of attack here, and I want to measure its performance against some different unit types. The Tzeentch Grinder also has sort of a not quite as long range, but still artillery range, a single shot, 5 shots per volley, interesting, but it's an anti-large type, so we'll test that against, I don't know. Khorne doesn't really have anything big and slow, unfortunately, so maybe I'll just throw it at, like, spawns, or I guess could take some Nurgle soul Grinders. There we go. So actually, let's keep the Herald on there. Take a couple of Khorne Soul Grinders, a couple of Khorne Heavy Infantry, a couple of like 1 or 2 Halberds also, and should we give them a Cav too? Yeah, let's see, Skull Crushers, or Blood Crushers rather. Okay. And yeah, I'll get my Soul Grinders here. I'll get the Demon Prince. let's go from there. I will also get a Plague Ridden just to heal my boys. What's the ability on the Beast of Nurgle? Show the Keeper versus Bloodthirster 1v1. I can. How would Tzeentch do against an army of Fleshhounds and Khorne Furies? Yeah, I mean, you're thinking in the right direction. Khorne's mobility is really strong. Like, the fact you have a lot of cheap, good, fast attack units, Furies, Chaos Warhounds, and Fleshhounds all, Vanguard, fast attack, and good on offense against light armor stuff, you're thinking in the right direction. Khorne's mobility is actually, like, on par with something like Beastmen or Wood Elves, I would say, in terms of, like, strong, fast attack. But anyway, let's line these guys up. So obviously the Nurgle boy will be shooting first, and then we'll have, yeah, let's do this. Slaanesh is melee only. He's anti-large AP, was the soporific musk, so probably going to be the most potent combatant here. The Khorne one also has a shooting attack. It's like a little 120 range shotgun attack, 500 weapon strength, so still very potent in melee. And then we've got the two ones that are more for shooting, but also pretty strong in melee as well. So let's move the Demon Prince out of the way. Okay, we'll get you on 3, you on 4, you on 5. Here we go. All right, let's take a shot at those warriors with halberds here. And you see the little volleys of sick incoming. That does pretty solid damage. Nothing too crazy, but let's start shooting here. And we'll definitely want to bring one of the Slaanesh grinders over to meet it in melee. No, he's going to stand and shoot with me. Okay, that probably won't go particularly in their favor. But let's just try this shooting attack here against these warriors of Khorne. And this probably isn't going to be any good versus single entities. So let's just try it. Oop, getting a traffic jam here. That's fine. Okay, so it is like a little cannon, like a triple shot cannon there. That's pretty cool. Whoops. I meant to charge those Blood Crushers in the rear with the Slaanesh grinder, but that's okay. The Tzeentch grinder is holding for the time being. Okay, so yeah, it doesn't seem to be able to make contact very consistently with the single entity there, with the Nurgle cannon, and it also isn't doing all that much damage. Let's volley into the cavalry there and see what that can do. And let's pop this heal on, probably on the Slaanesh grinder. Yeah, we'll hold off for the time being. Alright, so it didn't seem to do too much to the cavalry point blank. Granted, we are fighting point blank here, but yeah. Okay. Both the soul grinders are just sitting back for the time being, which is fine. Against infantry, they seem to be pretty decent. The attack animations are not too bad. Let's look up close. Get some of the animations here. I'm guessing that Nurgle grinder is probably suffering pretty badly. Yeah, let's go ahead and pop a heal actually on the Tzeentch grinder here. See if we can sustain him. He's actually up against halberds right now, so that's not ideal. Definitely not super ideal. See if we can pull out of that. Get a little rear charge going here. Yeah, those blood crushers are definitely doing a number on that Nurgle grinder. Poison is not really helping too much. I suppose poison and soporific musk should be affecting them right now, but evidently it doesn't say that the poison is. Uh-oh. Looks like the Herald's coming for my dude over here. Go ahead and just pop the buff. And yeah, I mean, hard to say really how this test, if we really learned much here. It does seem like the Nurgle grinder is going to be pretty good against infantry factions if you can keep it safe from counter range fire. I mean, against somebody like, I don't know, Cathay maybe. If you were holding a point with one of these guys, you could heal it quite a bit with your Lore of Nurgle, and then it could rain artillery fire if your opponent's just kind of holding another point, right? I don't know. Just, again, theory crafting a little bit. The Slaanesh Grinder, I mean, having the Soporific Musk and such strong melee stats does seem like it could be good in certain matchups, especially if you're going to have to fight another Greater Demon, like against Khorne, for example. The Khorne Grinder, I'm still not really sure. I mean, you have a lot of anti-infantry tools. It's not like the shotgun attack, which definitely seems like it's best against infantry. It's really wildly useful. I mean, he does pick up flaming damage as well, I guess, which could be good if you're trying to, I don't know, maybe take a fight against, like, a Great Unclean One or something else, you know, that's going to be healing quite a bit. It's interesting. Definitely very interesting. Yeah, I mean, they all have basically the same attack and defense. Cloud of Flies did make the Nurgle one somewhat more tanky for at least some time, but all of them are eventually going to fall over here. The Slaanesh Soul Grinder doesn't have a ranged attack. It has anti-large and this Soporific Musk, which is a -5 melee attack, melee defense. Debuff on contact. It's pretty nice, honestly. It's really, really good. Especially considering Slaanesh units tend to have good melee attack and defense anyway. So, yeah, the Khorne Grinder ends up pulling out to the bitter end here, but interesting. Very interesting. I mean, the fact that you can heal the Nurgle Grinder and the fact that it has Cloud of Flies makes it pretty good for tanking. The Slaanesh Grinder, I need to use a little bit more. The fact that it's, you know, got the Soporific Musk and just such strong melee stats could benefit you, but it's not that fast, which is a little bit tricky because then it won't be able to keep up with the rest of your army, right? The Tzeentch one is interesting too. The shooting attack seems like it could be good if you could use it for a pretty good amount of time, but I mean, everything else on Tzeentch's shooting is much more cost effective, so I don't know, as like a hybrid shooting melee unit, it is obviously much better in melee than a lot of other Tzeentch monsters, or units that Tzeentch can bring to the table. But like, even compared to the Lord of Change here, the Tzeentch Soul Grinder is, you know, not that much better weapon strength, kind of worse sustained combat stats. It can't fly. It does have better armor and more HP as well, but not a spellcaster, right? I don't know. It's kind of an interesting comparison. Only 1,700 too for the Lord of Change, so it is cheaper, whereas for the rest of the Greater Demons, they're actually more expensive than the Soul Grinders, right? So like the Great Unclean One is more expensive than the Soul Grinder, right? But it does have 3,000 more HP, 500 weapon strength, obviously no shooting attack, but again, better sustained stats. Yeah, only 36 infantry speed and 40 armor, but literally 3,000 HP. Like, you know what I'm saying? 40% more HP is absolutely ridiculous. Keeper of Secrets, again, spellcaster, but the Keeper is actually 60-50 in terms of attack and defense, so just like clearly much better stats and better weapon strength too. Sorry, no, not better weapon strength, and not better charge, interestingly enough. Keep in mind that the Soul Grinder of Slaanesh also gets Devastating Flanker and Strider? Interesting. I didn't realize that before, but this... Okay, so the Slaanesh Soul Grinder picks up the best weapon strength with anti-large, Soporific Musk, Devastating Flanker, and Strider, which... I mean, Strider is not huge, but it will allow this thing to keep up with the rest of its army a little bit better. It won't be slowed down going through, you know, up or down hills, through woods. In particular on heavily forested maps. I didn't even realize that that was the case, but that's actually pretty cool. It does make a difference. I guess the Keeper of Secrets also has Strider, so probably a lot of the Slaanesh units. No, actually, the Seekers of Slaanesh do not. Do the Hell Striders? Heartseekers, Exalted Seeker Chariots. Where are they? Oh no, those are actually on the Mortalist roster. Whoops. Anyway. But, yeah, these guys do not have, interestingly enough. Regardless, someone wanted to see Keeper of Secrets versus Bloodthirster. We could probably make that happen. What are your thoughts on the preset Demon Princes? They're not very good, honestly. I mean, they're okay, but they're so expensive for what they give you. And, like, the Nurgle one's weapon strength is not very good. He does have self-healing and... but, like, this ability, chance of instantly dying, no thank you. Fleshy Abundance I would take, and depending on the matchup, I would take either Stream of Corruption or Miasma Pestilence, probably. But, like, I mean, 25-95 still... for like okay-ish melee stats, really not the best melee attack in the world, pretty low weapon strength. I don't know, and like the Tzeentch boy, I mean, he does have almost 10,000 HP, which is amazing for a flying lord. But the Tzeentch boy, 1,800 less HP, like worse melee stats, better weapon strength, picks up lore of Tzeentch, obviously. And he does have greater arcane conduit, which is really nice. Warp Flame on contact. This guy seems pretty decent if you can keep him alive, but he's pretty squishy, and yeah, you got to be on top of your micro there. The Slaanesh one, I mean, you do pick up Armor Sundering, which is kind of cool. That could synergize well with some Nurgle units, actually. You've also got Mortal Blow to increase your weapon strength, anti-large AP. Definitely very strong in combat. 60 melee defense, 50 melee attack. This one actually might have better melee stats. Yeah, better defense at least than the Khorne one. The Khorne one does have better weapon strength and charge, though, is not a caster. So you don't have to worry about that. You can kit him down to be pretty cheap, too, honestly. The other ones here, this generic Demon Prince has basically nothing. So he's like the starter Demon Prince. And then this other one has a slightly different stat line. He's got worse attack and defense, but better weapon strength, less charge, less leadership and speed, but better armor. And he actually has a Fury's Summon, 2-time use Fury's Summon. So yeah, that's your kind of Demon Prince preset loadouts that you have access to in custom multiplayer. And then again, of course, you can load your own from campaign. So I can load up Mr. Balrog Baggins here, who has his double Mortis Engine effect, 20% damage resistance, you know, charge bonus, summon, Burning Rage, Plague of Rust also, just because, you know, nice to have one spell. But again, that's only if this character loading is checked here. Otherwise, it will not allow them to be loaded. We could actually compare. I think I can show you guys the spell browser. I don't think that's disallowed, so let's see here. So we can actually look. And notice how all heals, rather than being a flat value, are percentage-based, which means if a unit has high base HP, they're going to benefit a lot more from healing. So keep that in mind as you're talking about the heal values here. Because Nurgle units tend to have such high base HP, and all heals are now percentage-based, Nurgle units tend to get a lot of value from healing, like just in terms of raw numbers. They get a lot more than other factions would because of that high base HP. So keep that in mind. But Fleshy Abundance here, if we look, I think I have all the common lores here. Yes, Lore of Life, so we can actually compare. Regrowth did get a new icon, which is nice. 0.8 heals per second and 100% Vigor refresh. So, yeah, less of a heal, significantly less of a heal, but Fleshy Abundance doesn't have the Vigor refresh. So it's going to be the strongest single heal spell in the game, I would think. I mean, I could look at some of these others, but I don't know. I mean, even the Skaven lores are in here, so yeah, but that's it for now. That's enough of that. Let's think about some other units here. Cavalry. So moving on to cavalry. So Demon Cavalry, we've got the Seekers of Slaanesh, Heartseekers, Blood Crushers. Both of these kind of have mortal variants as well. Not to mention Plague Toads, Flesh Hounds, kind of your different mobile units, right? Yeah, let's just get a grab bag of some random stuff. Plague Drones. Yeah, we've got regular old Furies here too. But we'll, again, just kind of bring in some random stuff for Khorne. Let's take some of his own Flesh Hounds to show a large unarmored target. Yeah, maybe take some... I don't know. Yeah, that should do, to be honest. Find another map too here. Let's do False Oasis. Sounds interesting. How good are Great Unclean Ones? They're pretty good. I mean, they have a huge amount of HP. We can do some Greater Demons testing next. I just wanted to look at Demon Cavalry first. Yes, that's correct. That's correct, Iron Thunder. In terms of the lores of magic. Yes, Nurgle also has death. Tzeentch also has metal. So, yeah. So we saw a little bit of Blood Crushers last time. Let's just kind of line up these different mobile units here. And we'll see what we can do with them. So, okay, let's move these guys up. And, okay, so the Plague Toads and the Pox Riders are anti-infantry, non-AP. So the best targets for them to charge are going to be these Bloodletters. So we'll just charge them directly into the Bloodletters. The Fiends can hang back for now. Flesh Hounds, we'll have you also hang back for now. The Blood Crushers, we could have charged straight into Blood Crushers. That could be interesting.
Sin and depravity.
Screamers, let's have go take out those Flesh Hounds high on the hill so don't come interrupt. Let's also have you guys charge the unarmored infantry so you can see some performance of that. So Flesh Hounds, Plague Toads, Pox Riders coming in here against these Bloodletters. Physical resistance, but no armor, pretty low melee defense. And you just check out the animations on the Pox Riders. You can see how they have great stagger. They tend to throw units around quite a bit, which is not something you would ever see by just looking at the stat card, right? That's true of both the Toads and the Pox Riders. But anyway, it does look like our opponent is reacted now, so let's rear charge those guys with our blazing fast speed. Seekers of Slaanesh there, and the Plague Toads are doing okay. The Screamers doing okay against those Flesh Hounds, but they eventually get caught by the Halberds, which is not ideal. Heart Seekers, oh yeah, you can see the Seekers on the rear charge there on the Blood Crushers were able to defeat them pretty decisively. So Heart Seekers obviously would be able to do the same. Let's drop a rear charge on those Halberd Infantry with the Blood Crushers, and maybe these Heart Seekers can just go after those Flesh Hounds there. So yeah, Pox Riders eventually do get overwhelmed in melee, but not before dealing some significant damage. Same thing with the Flesh Hounds. Like, they were actually able to force those Bloodletters into crumbling there, so pretty significant. Screamers are flying, so we can disengage them here. Let's get the Fiends charging in their rear there. Charge those Blood Crushers with the, the Bloodletters with the Blood Crushers, obviously. Yeah, the Heart Seekers, no questions. They are a much more elite unit than the Flesh Hounds, even in a direct frontal charge. Fiends, we'll actually just leave the Fiends to fight in this, because I think Fiends, even not on the charge, are pretty strong. I mean, their stats are not amazing, but that Soporific Musk is quite beneficial. So, looking good there. Blood Crushers are tanking quite well. Let's go ahead and rear charge those Halberd Warriors, and we can come in and rear charge these Bloodletters. So Heart Seekers on Halberd Warriors, a little bit of an uphill charge too, so it's not really ideal. But let's see. Yeah, some really, really nice damage, definitely. Should be able to win there, although the Heart Seekers are going to take some damage basically as soon as the Halberds turn around. So with these Demonette Cavalry, you definitely want to be like super on top of your cycle charge and really not leave them in sustained combat for more than a few seconds. The Fiends did end up going down there. Okay. Maybe not quite as good of a performance as what I expected, but still pretty solid. Okay, the Flesh Hounds managed to catch us here. The Seekers not getting the charge in more of a sustained fight against the unit, which is probably pretty good against them. That high weapon damage of the Flesh Hounds means they'll trade pretty cost effectively against Seekers, I think. Let's see here. These Blood Crushers should just crump with the magic damage and the anti-infantry. Yeah, against any kind of demon infantry, against literally just any infantry, to be honest, Blood Crushers are going to do a lot of damage on the charge. Great anti-infantry bonus, charge bonus, magic damage, and AP, which means physical resistance, armor, whatever you got, they have an answer for. Okay, so Halberds came in here now. Seekers are starting to fall over pretty quickly. Heart Seekers also taking substantial damage. Seekers, unfortunately, I mean, their low armor is just tricky to make them operate effectively, and yeah, the Heart Seekers do have a little bit more armor and better stats, but okay. Blood Crushers might have to carry. That one warrior of Khorne with halberds might be the end of my test here. But Demon Prince can probably clean it up. Let's see if we can rear charge those halberd warriors. Let's turn the Blood Crushers around. Okay, pretty decent. Hard to say exactly. But Mr. Baggins, if you would please. Yeah, those Heart Seekers, so squishy. I guess the Demon Prince is going to have to finish things off. Go ahead and put a little Flag of Rust there. Bring in these Heart Seekers for one more rear charge. Same for the Blood Crushers. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure about the Slaanesh Demon Cavalry. I mean, obviously they have the Mortals riding that as well, which I can't really comment too much right now, but yeah, Blood Crushers definitely seem very good for, I mean, they're 1,500, which is not super cheap, but considering how strong they are in a lot of different ways, I mean, 100 armor, just crazy weapon damage, good charge, magic, anti-infantry. In fact, they also have 20% physical resistance, and the Hellblade means, like many Khorne units, as they get kills, their weapon strength will just increase, right? So really, you do want to be mowing down as much infantry as you can with them. Yeah, Blood Crushers are definitely high on my list. The Khorne Cavalry in general, I am just a huge fan of as a heavy cavalry enjoyer. Slaanesh Light Cavalry seems decent if you use it appropriately, but one v one with the big demons, please. Okay, I'll do what I can. It just depends if the AI is going to cooperate, but let's start with the Great Unclean One. And I'll bring the Nurgle Bro to back him up. Okay. And unfortunately, against Khorne, regardless of who I test against, it's going to be tricky because the Herald or whatever Lord will want to get involved. So let's just go. I mean, I guess I could just go straight in with the Exalted Bloodthirster. I don't know if that's the fairest test because it's an Exalted versus an Unexalted. So, no, let's actually keep the Herald. And we'll just try and distract him with our Lord as best we can. And then we'll pick up a Bloodthirster. This is a fight that I expect to go in the Bloodthirster's favor. The Bloodthirster having flaming damage and just good anti-large DPS. Plus, we're not guaranteed to get Nurgle's healing ability here, his army ability, which I do think is important for sustaining a Great Unclean One, potentially. But we'll see. I mean, Bloodthirster, again, a lot of RNG. The Great Unclean One has a huge HP pool, 11,000 HP, right? So, alright, Vomitus. Let's go up here on the hill so we have the least amount of issues as possible. Okay, so this is going to be tricky. I'll probably just land, honestly. There we go. Just land the boys so that as we approach, we can try and make sure that the Bloodthirster is fighting Great Unclean One. But man, look at how big this Vomitus Demon Prince is. Like, holy cow. He's a big boy. It's pretty quick, too. Awesome. Super, super cool. The Nurgle flies. Yeah, Cloud of Flies is +9 melee defense after a unit's been engaged in melee combat for 15 seconds. So the Great Unclean One is fairly slow, though, something to be aware of. 36 speed is like, you know, standard infantry speed, but look at that. Those rolls, man. Oh, yeah. It's only got one eye, too. It seems like Nurgle's a fan of the one-eyed bros. No, not me. No, other one. No, stop it. Go away. Dang it.
Wherever Nurgle asks, I have left.
Okay, Vomitus. Yes, yes, this is exactly what we want. Right here. Perfect. This is exactly what we want. Okay, so far, pretty even. No, Nurgle. Herald, stop it. Stop this. I may pop a heal on the Great Unclean One, because it is realistic to expect at least one heal, if not more. So, and it is going to be mitigated also by the fact that he is on fire, right? So, let's go ahead and pop said heal. I mean, we may run into army loss issues here now that I've killed the Herald, which is unfortunate. But the heal did go off. Even still, we might end up losing. Looks like the Herald stabilized. We do need to actually get rid of him, though. Okay, Herald, are you done yet? Nope, he's still fighting. Oh, he is attacking my Demon Prince, though. That's perfect. And yeah, the Great Unclean One is losing. Kind of to be expected, to be honest. I mean, you are paying a little bit of a premium for being a spellcaster. Like, I literally could come in here and debuff his melee attack, I guess, too, because that comes preloaded with the Great Unclean One, right? The fact that he can actually cast spells. So, can't do that. Does mean I don't have enough Winds of Magic to cast this again, though. But let's see. Hopefully it gives me the Nurgle heal as my next army ability. I guess I have to be dealing damage with my Lord for that to happen, so that's not going to be happening anyway. Bloodthirster is winning. Yeah, as intended, I'm sure. The Bloodthirster should be the best in a straight melee fight, although the Great Unclean One should be able to survive for quite a long time, and if he gets healed enough, should be able to win. That's kind of the idea, right? So, yeah, we've got 12 Winds of Magic. We should definitely be able to get one more heal off here. But you can see how it is RNG based, right? Single entity fights, heavy RNG. Let's see, though. Can we get this heal off in time? I think we can. This may mean that the Great Unclean One wins, but that's, again, with 2 Fleshy Abundances, which is not unrealistic to expect. You know, if you're taking Nurgle, I think you do want to take Fleshy Abundance and prioritize healing your expensive units with it. You know, your expensive tanky units that are meant to hold, you definitely want to be healing them, I think. But maybe not. I mean, the Great Unclean One seems is not doing any attack animations. There it is. Okay, Bloodthirster is pretty low. Again, the army loss situation, yeah, I think the Bloodthirster is going to go to army losses. So without those heals, I think the Bloodthirster probably wins. With the heals, I would expect the Great Unclean One to probably be able to outlast him. But still a very even fight. And the fact that, you know, the flaming damage was mitigating the heals there as well. And I did also do that melee attack debuff, so I guess not totally a fair fight, but fair enough, I suppose. Both of them basically got the same damage value-wise, so it's pretty even, all things considered. Without the abilities, I do think the Great Unclean One would have lost. But again, I think it's totally realistic to expect heals on this big boy. And as a Nurgle player, you want to be prioritizing healing that. So let's move on. Next, we'll test the Keeper of Secrets. And let's go with the Darkling Prince to back him up. Same thing. Yeah, it does a lot of healing. And that's what I'm saying, because it's a percentage-based heal. When you're healing a unit that has 11,000 HP base, like 1% of 11,000 is, right? It's a lot of HP. So you're getting 1 of that per second. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what, 1% of 1,000 is 10, so you're getting, yeah, good amount of heals per second. Like 16 heals per second with just 10,000 base HP, and I mean, he has even more than that, so. Let's take a look at the, ooh, interesting. So the top tier of Slanesh Greater Demon has a crab arm and a shield. Very interesting. And a fancy looking mask. Nice. And here's the Keeper of Secrets. Again, I would expect the Keeper to lose in a sustained fight against the Bloodthirster, but we'll see. Fiends are pretty good. Fiends are very fast. They are, the Soporific Musk is really nice. They hit hard on the charge. I wasn't sure about Fiends at first, but I think in some matchups they're going to be really strong for sure.
Striding out. Chaos
the regular Bloodthirster's okay. The Exalted Bloodthirster is very, very good. And Scarbrand's also very good. I think, though, in a lot of situations, it's going to be more cost-effective to actually take the Soul Grinder right now. But anyway, let's go ahead and land again, so you can kind of do the same as before. Excellent. Okay. Stay close. Okay, so I'm not going to get my charge bonus, but I guess that's part of the flying. There is also a little bit of a bug right now where flying single entities have a hard time landing against, like, stationary single entities. So, yeah, good showcase.
The base one. Fluid grace.
There we go, he landed, finally. Okay, so again, we're not going to get the benefit of Devastating Flanker in this type of an engagement, but I can cast this Hex to debuff his melee defense. And again, I would expect the Bloodthirster to just win here, but oh man, do they actually have matched animations? Am I seeing matched animations right now? It looks almost matched. Oh yeah, what? What? That's cool. I don't know who's actually getting the hits, but nice breath attack to the face. Yeah, it looks like the Bloodthirster's winning again, to be expected. Do we have the debuff off cooldown yet? No, not quite. Guess I could always cast it again like this. It's not going to help my Keeper tank, though. Okay, yeah, Bloodthirster wins this one in a sustained fight. If I were to, like, cycle charge a little bit, like rear charge here. I don't think I have enough time, unfortunately, to even do one rear charge. Come on, just one rear charge just to see the damage. Come on, do an attack animation. Maybe not. Nope. Oh, it's fine. It's intended, right? So yeah, Keeper of Secrets loses to this Bloodthirster. Yeah, it is super fast. That's the thing, is you can just outmaneuver, right? And once the Bloodthirster gets on the ground, you can easily screen with some cheap Marauders and just outmaneuver and get a nice side or rear charge, right? At least that's the idea. So, Corn OP, GG, please nerf. Yeah, Corn's fine, guys. Corn's gonna be really good. Okay, and then last and definitely least in terms of stats, we've got the Lord O Change. So I think the thing to do here is to blast him fly around and try and blast him a few times, and then fight in melee. But I'm gonna need to take a ground unit because, yeah, I don't don't have any ground units. So... Soul Grinder with Anti-Large will probably be a better pick for an SEM. It is cheaper, it's not as fast, but it's also not a spellcaster, right? So... yeah, Slaaneish's whole thing is charge bonus, exactly, which is why the Keeper's Secrets performs poorly there. I think in a more real-world situation where the Keeper can screen and pull around and get, like, side and rear charges, I think that the Keeper would perform quite a bit better there and could potentially win with good micro. But, again, that kind of straight head-to-head engagement with the Bloodthirster charging down from the air can only really benefit Khorne, so, yeah. So since this thing is a spellcaster, right, and also has a pretty nice little blue fire of Tzeentch, we're going to go ahead and use that, and then probably get killed in melee. Oh, is he going to try and dodge? Is the AI trying to dodge? No. Okay, so that did a little bit. We're going to now run away. Oh yeah, this Tzeentch Demon Prince also has Gaze of Fate too, so probably actually hidden in time. Yes, stalk and unspottable. You don't know where I am? You can't see me. Oh, can he turn and fire in time? I don't think so. I think I waited too long. Oh no! Ah, the barrier will protect me from one hit at least. Oh, no. Chicken got caught. I'm dead already. Okay, so my plan was to shoot him with magic missiles for a minute, but I don't think that's going to be happening, so let's just fight.
Champion of the gods, destroy everything.
Yeah, to be expected. Lord of Change is getting absolutely mauled, but actually in the air to air, it's not. Yeah, it's pretty bad. This is not a fight you want to be taking, really. And Lord of Change is a pretty decent single entity. I don't know, all the demons that you pay for the spellcasting ability on, which is the Lord of Change, the Great Unclean One, and the Keeper of Secrets, I just don't see it being wildly useful because all of your lords are casters anyway, right? So it's not like you're ever going to be in a situation where you don't have a caster and you need one. And a lot of the times, you know, like, I don't know exactly for the unit's power level, I would need to look, but you're probably paying a hefty sum for that, you know, ability. So anyway, he probably actually beats my Demon Prince here too. One week for Khorne nerf? No, I don't think so. I think Khorne will be fine. Balance-wise, it's really too early for me to say. I mean, I've played quite a few games, but I still haven't played enough. I have my porthole set to 2D. That's one of the biggest impacts on performance. A lot of people don't know this, but I have my porthole set to 2D. Oh yeah, and then, yeah, the Lord of Change. Yeah, he's, yeah, that's a bug right there. Weak among their peers, but insanely powerful in general. Yeah, and you can see, like, 2v1 here, we have no problem. When the Lord of Change isn't eating the hits, his barrier regenerates, and he's able to contribute quite well, which I think is an important note to make. Like, in a single entity fight, he can be, not super cheap, but he's a pretty decent flying single entity for the cost. And the fact that he has the spells means that, there was a game I played where I actually lost my Lord. Like, I just blundered my Lord, and I did have a Lord of Change, so I was able to continue casting spells with him. And I guess that is one benefit, right? But anyway. I both love how they both just land on his body. Like that's gonna do anything. Anyway. if you have a metal caster as a Lord of for Tzeentch, that's also a good point. Yes, that's also true. Or like if you bring Lore of Death for your Lord for Nurgle, or Lore of Shadows for Slaanesh, then you can still get access to a couple of spells out of your god-specific lore from bringing the Greater Demon. That is a good point. True. Very, very good point. Oh, Sartharel is flying. I mean, this is literally Sartharel's model right here, right? This is the Lord of Change we know from Warhammer 1 and 2. And guess what? Look, he's flying. Yep. Yep. I love how the Tzeentch Demon Prince is just, like, standing there, like, hits a power pose at the end, like, just totally does not care about this little Herald bro. And I have to say, the Tzeentch Demon probably is my favorite looking. Like, I love the bird skull and the bird wings and, like, the claw, like, the chicken feet. I don't know why. Just the bird Demon Prince makes me happy. Hey, thanks for coming out. Good night, and much appreciated. So, the Lord of Change, pretty solid there. Again, with, like, a 2v1 situation, he was obviously able to win. But, definitely very squishy. Sustained combat. That barrier, though, one thing that we didn't really see here is, like, you know, if I were to take, like, just, let's say, a bunch of Khorne infantry, like, here's one thing to consider also. With any flying unit with barrier, are those still free-for-all battles? Yes, there are still free-for-all battles. There are no new free-for-all maps from what I've seen, but there are free-for-all battles, yes. New magic animations? Yeah, I can show you some new magic for sure. Okay, so just, again, something to consider about flying units with barrier. And again, with domination, and with any capture mode, I should say, flying units can't capture points. So, keep that in mind as well in this test. But, just so you guys are aware how ridiculous this can get. So, some of you know what's coming, some of you might have no idea, but basically what I'm going to show here is flying Cycle Charge being ridiculously strong with the barrier, because I can come in, I can sit and fight for a minute. So far, I've taken 0 actual HP damage, right? And again, this is sort of a unit that's not really meant to fight me, but I could come in here and drop a little pink fire. And then, oh, what's that? My barrier's not even halfway depleted yet. Oh yeah, I can pop back up into the air and refresh that, no problem. This guy's barrier's barely taking any damage. So yep, pop back up in the air, fly around for a sec. Oh, what's this? Your lord's over there all vulnerable by himself? That would be a shame if someone just aggressively cycle charged him to death. Yes, you see the barrier is replenishing there. And it doesn't even matter if you're in melee or not. The only thing that matters is if you're taking hits. So like I could still charge in with a little bit of barrier left to charge, and as long as I don't take a hit, it will still continue to charge back up. Like this guy, again, same thing. Let's show... we'll throw an Infernal Gateway on these guys just to show the animation. This is a probably overkill, but oh yeah. Oh yeah, super cool animation. And it is doing quite a bit of damage too. And again, I can just get up in the air, wait for my barrier to refresh, and I'm taking basically no HP damage. The barrier doesn't recharge instantly. You can see it does kind of recharge slowly, but it is recharging. And I'm literally not doing anything, right? Like I'm just... So far, I've taken almost 0 actual HP damage on my army. Let's drop a little... We don't have quite enough for Tzeentch's Firestorm yet. We're getting pretty close. So what happens if we nerf these guys' melee attack with that Gaze of Fate? Probably the Lord of Change can just sit and fight on top of them for quite some time. Okay, and we have the Tzeentch's Firestorm. This is pretty good. It's like a little triple vortex. Oh yeah, I love that the fact that this eye opens up on all the different Tzeentch spells and like the little swirlies, like the little pink swirlies. I don't know why, they make me so happy. Keep in mind also, guys, that I have the SFX turned way down. I'm running this on a laptop after all, so take of that what you will. But okay, here's a couple of Tzeentch's army abilities. We've got this huge strike area bombardment, which should come in and basically finish off the rest of these guys. But let's watch the damage. Again, this is a Tzeentch army ability, his top tier of army ability. Very appropriate. Yep, leads to everyone getting terrified. Just a ridiculously huge bombardment. Definitely would do lots of friendly fire, too, if I had any friendly infantry within this range, but there you go. So, yeah, flying units with barrier, Lord of Change being one of them, very, very strong if used, you know, in a way where they're not going to take too much damage, but... 27th is when we can actually start showing multiplayer footage, yes. Okay, what have we not shown off then? We've shown off most of the mobile units. The corn stuff, Turin did some testing yesterday, so I'm not really going to show too much. I guess we could look at some chariots. Some secret chariots. And Hellflare chariots, and let's... Yeah, got the corn heavy infantry there. Let's take even some halberds too, and some light infantry. Just a big old line of infantry, to be honest, for us to run some chariots over. Let's take a burning chariot, too, even though it's not really a chariot. It's a flying shooting unit, but kind of like a chariot. And also flying shooting are the plague drones of Nurgle, so we can take them, too. And you have these unaligned Furies here, which don't have any special abilities, but they are 50 cost less than the God-aligned Furies. So that's a thing. And, yeah, oh, I forgot. We're forgetting one variant of chariot here. Hellflayers, that's right. Lots of chariots. Have you tried finding unique SEM sync kills? We did just find a few unique sync animations between the Bloodthirster and the Keeper of Secrets. I would imagine if there are any sync animations, probably it's between the Greater Demons. Maybe even the named Greater Demons, but I don't know, actually. You think the Chaos factions will dominate in PvP? It's too early for me to say, really, to be honest. But, okay. So, these guys have the same shooting attack, not quite, but close to, as the Exalted Plague Bears we looked at earlier. And then the Chariots. Okay, so we have the single entity. I forget, this one's actually a single entity chariot, the Exalted Secret Chariot. Single entity, 1,500 cost is quite a bit for a single entity chariot. That seems pretty flimsy. Only 5,000 HP, 40 armor, 32 melee defense. I don't know. We'll see. The Hellflayers, though, they're the dual-wide chariots. They seem pretty solid also. Again, very squishy, but massive damage, potentially 50 charge, goes up to 100 in the side or rear. And then the regular Secret Chariots are probably the most cost-effective in multiplayer. These are the ones you're likely to see the most, I think. Only 800 cost. They are pretty flimsy, but they can do a ridiculous amount of damage. And their mass seems to be quite good as well. So, let's start out with some shooting. Let's go shoot those halberd infantry down there, and you can move up and just kind of flame whoever. Yes, definitely made for penetrating lines. You know it. You already know it. Alright, so flaming shot from the sky. Sometimes the burning chariot has a little bit of a hard time shooting from a high angle. It doesn't always make as good of contact. But the fact that it can stay safe while doing this is pretty impressive, right? So, okay, Plague Bear is doing some damage there. Let's see, what happens if we shoot the Herald? Yeah, plague drones don't seem to be doing a lot considering their shooting attack. It literally, yeah, it seems pretty weak to me, to be honest. I don't know. I haven't ever found it to be super impactful. Like, it's doing very little damage. And again, high angle shooting that single entity. You saw before how we were able to do okay single entity damage from the low angle. So keep that in mind when using the Burning Chariot. Like, yes, it's safer up in the air, especially against certain factions which don't have many flying tools or shooting, like Slanesh, for example. But it's not as impactful because it won't contact as many unit models as shooting from a low angle. Kind of like how Amber Spear used to be, right? Now, these plague drones are really just not doing much. Are they actually shooting, is the question? Yeah, they are. I guess they've technically killed 7 of them, but doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot, to be honest. Anyway, let's start charging with chariots straight downhill. And again, this is not necessarily ideal because I am just charging straight, not into the side or rear. But, yeah, you can see downhill charge a little bit too. The mass is amazing. They can just punch straight through and continue on to the other side. Burning Chariot has used up all of its ammunition and has only generated 371 value. So, yeah, something to be aware of. But you see how quickly those chariots started taking damage there as I left them in combat even just for a few seconds. Like, these are absolutely chariots that you need to keep moving or else they will just die. But thankfully their mass is such that you, as long as you're on top of your micro, you can keep them moving for the most part. I mean, this one here, the Seeker Chariot, the lowest tier one, has the greatest chance of getting caught up, and I think we might have lost a unit model on one already. Yeah, we did. But plague drones just charge down into combat, which is again another use for them. But this thing here, the Burning Chariot, also does have 380 weapon strength in melee. I guess we could just try and come in and snipe this guy. But the chariots, again, with good micro, they should be able to literally kill this entire infantry line. Burning Chariot can kind of act as a little bit of a anvil there if it doesn't, if the Herald doesn't get completely swept away by chariots. Oh, here we go. Here's like a solid rear charge opportunity if the AI will cooperate. It looks like they're actually going to countercharge, which is what they should do, but not for my test. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's get some close-ups. This is such a ridiculous looking unit, to be honest, these Slanesh chariots. And yeah, they do seem to be getting the work done. I mean, it is taking them some time, but again, considering with good micro, like they literally can just keep it moving the whole time. And especially considering, like, if you can force a big blob like this, multi-charge it from multiple angles, you also get, you know, Winds of Magic potentially. Like, I have still my Zinch Bro here, but, you know, I could come in and just drop, like, a little, you know, breath attack, similar to Lash. Slanesh has the Lash, right, spell that's pretty similar to the Blue Fire. It's not exactly the same, but come in and drop a little bit of this just to simulate some magic. So the chariots definitely seem pretty good. Let's try all attack on one unit and see if we can just absolutely nuke this unit of Chaos Warriors here. Demonettes are different. Yeah, I could show you some potential like builds for Demons of Chaos, right? Let's go ahead and drop a little Firestorm right there just for fun. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is what we're here for, right? All the demons. Man, the chariots. These chariots just so ridiculous in terms of mass. They can plow through even Chaos Warriors like they're just not even there. Which, considering how wide they are, does seem appropriate. Just look at them just lawnmowering guys over. Like heavy Chaos Warriors, too. Just lawnmowering them. Oh my goodness.
Endless suffering.
Drop another bout of fire here.
Supple servants of Slaanesh.
Yeah, Slaanesh Chariot's definitely very good. Keep that in mind when you're taking infantry against them. Yeah, they really made Tzeentch look like the Eye of Sauron. The Tzeentch abilities, yeah. Ooh, here we go. Do a little Infernal Gateway right there.
Bringers of joyous degradation.
Oh, yeah. Let's see how far into this blob we can penetrate. Oh, yeah, look at that penetration. Great Slaaneshi penetration. And we can just pull through. Excellent. Yeah, you can see the Burning Chariot, the Exalted Flamer up here, just having a grand old time. The Exalted Flamer and the two Screamers actually very active here in terms of their attack animations. They do seem to be swooping around quite a bit. Probably makes them hard to hit. Ooh, Fascination. This is one of Slaanesh's army abilities, just straight up deals damage. So we can go ahead and hit the Chaos Warriors with halberds with that. And at this point, you pretty much get the idea. It's just basically charge porn at this point, which, considering it's Slaanesh, again, seems appropriate. Can't Khorne just bring a bunch of cav to counter the chariots, though? Yes, that's true. I mean, that is 100% accurate, right? But again, this is just about showing the performance of these units in their kind of ideal scenario. If you want to talk about Slaanesh versus Khorne, I mean, I can't really comment on Slaanesh or show their roster, like their actual roster right now. I can show anything that's on Demons of Chaos, but I can't, like, load in as Slaanesh specifically. So it's a little bit hard to comment, but, I mean, you do have a point there. The Khorne cavalry, as we saw, Blood Crusher is very strong and could definitely counteract chariots like this, no problem. Considering they just have physical resistance here. Yeah, the Exalted Secret Chariot, I didn't realize, also has Perfect Vigor. That is actually pretty good. But got the Tzeentch army ability here to give me some extra Winds of Magic. It looks like we just got army losses anyway, so yeah. Again, the Chariots took a lot of damage. We lost almost all of them, but they were able to get the job done at the end of the day. With the, obviously, the magic too, contributing quite a bit, but... Poor Dawi. Well, the thing to realize about these Secret Chariots is with, like, Rune of Slowness and with the Dragonback Slayers, you will be able to kill them almost instantly if you catch them, like, if they slow down too much. So, I mean, there will be counterplay, for sure. Like, the damage and the mass seems incredible, because it is, but they are very flimsy. Only 40 armor, and, yeah, low HP, so they do fall apart pretty quick if you slip up on your micro. But in the hands of a strong player, they'll definitely be very solid. A lot of that damage did end up coming from Mr. Zarevik here. But the Chariots did pretty decently. So at this point, I've showed off pretty much all of the demon units, I think, right? I think we've hit everyone. Let's talk about... We could talk a little bit about heroes, I guess. So... The Nurgle boy has the Rotfly. We already kind of saw his Lore of Magic in action too. Definitely Fleshy Abundance, very strong. In terms of his own kind of individual stats here, pretty decent. He's got 4,300 HP. We actually come in and grab one of each of the demon heroes. Again, Nurgle, you've got Nurgle and Death. Slaanesh has Slaanesh and Shadow. Tzeentch has Tzeentch and Metal. So, the Iridescent Horror has Burning Disc and the Burning Chariot. Basically, the only difference here is that the Burning Chariot gives you AP damage in melee and slightly worse melee defense with slower speed. I think the Disc is actually really nice for him because it makes him very fast, and he also has a shooting attack as well, which makes him pretty unique. I think in Warhammer 2, maybe the only caster with a shooting attack is like Nocti Boy on his mount, right? Or I think baseline, only the Admiral has a shooting attack and is a caster, so that's somewhat unique. Definitely makes him a pretty decent hero choice, even, you know, if you're not necessarily taking... now, obviously, your Lord's going to be a spellcaster, regardless of who you take as your Lord as Tzeentch. This guy, though, can still be a nice little kind of range support Lord. You can take the alternate Lore of Magic from what your Lord has. This Locus of Change, little missile damage buff is pretty nice as well. Area of Effect missile damage buff makes him a pretty nice little missile support Lord. So definitely can fly around and cackle, even if you take literally no spells on him, just as a missile support flying Lord. He's 1250, which is not too bad. Pretty on par, honestly. The Burning Chariot does put him up to 1550, which I don't think... I mean, it's cheaper than the regular Burning Chariot, but again, it's his shooting attack instead of its. Kind of arguable as to which one might be better. Just depends on the situation. But especially like Lore of Metal on this little guy, definitely could be pretty strong. The Alurus has the Steed of Slanesh. Again, 100 speed, poison. Pretty good stats, 375 weapon strength, 55 charge. Not bad at all. The Secret Chariot, though, is only 160 weapon strength. Pretty weak, honestly, for a single entity chariot. And again, only 40 armor. 100 speed, though, plus poison, 60 charge. Not too bad. The Exalted Secret Chariot, again, just that much better. And also picks up Perfect Vigor, which is actually quite strong. There's no way of healing, but Perfect Vigor, especially on units which are charge-oriented, it can be quite good, given that charging uses a lot of vigor. So yeah, and then you also get this a little ability here, an AoE charge bonus and speed buff, which is again really nice for support. And then whatever Lore of Magic you so choose. Blood Reaper obviously is not a caster, but can take the Juggernaut, which makes him a very formidable monstrous cavalry hero. 425 weapon strength with 20 bonus versus infantry. Only 35 melee defense is not great, but it does somewhat get made up for with 100 armor, 20% physical resistance, and 25% spell resistance. Also keep in mind that he will get stronger as the fight progresses with that Hellblade. And you, of course, have Foe Seeker, Deadly Onslaught. Locus of Abjuration is even more spell resistance in an area of effect against somebody like Tzeentch. If you're, worried about getting blob busted, you could potentially take this and help mitigate quite a bit of that damage. But even just on the Juggernaut with nothing, he's only 1150, which is pretty cost-effective for how strong of a single entity he actually is in combat. The Blood Throne gives him even more armor, does significantly nerf his melee defense, but turns him into a pretty decent chariot. Single entity chariots sometimes are good in single entity combat. This one's definitely not, but it is very good against infantry. Again, has a little bit of self-healing as well. So depending on the matchup, if you're not going to have to fight a lot of big, angry single entities, and instead you want to disrupt infantry and just mow them down, like against, say, Cathay or Kislev, you may want to take him on this mount instead, but it is substantially more expensive than the Juggernaut, it must be said. Again, this guy, the Nurgle boy, he has this area of effect, melee attack and armor piercing, weapon damage buff, which is quite nice. Melee attack tends to be somewhat lacking on Nurgle's roster, so it's always nice to get a little support ability there. The Palanquin literally just gives you 80 armor and makes you large, which making you large isn't always a benefit, but certainly the 80 armor and the additional 2,000 HP does help. Is that worth 200 points, though? It's hard to say. It doesn't really give you anything else, and you do actually lose the ability to hide, which is not a big deal, but it's something. Rotfly, obviously, is going to be a much better option. It puts him in the air and increases his weapon strength up to 420. Pretty decent sustained stats, really no armor still, and not a lot of charge bonus, but poison. And, of course, he's, again, flying, so if you have, say, like a flying plague-ridden Lore of Death, with Spirit Leech, and just Spirit Leech, that's 1,600. I mean, I guess it's like the same cost as a Plague Drone flying around throwing the Death's Heads, right? But it's actually going to be doing some damage, although you are using your Winds of Magic to do so. Though I would probably recommend Life Leeching. It does actually give you Power Reserve now, which is nice. So maybe you'd go up to 1,700 with that loadout. So there's the heroes. I could do a little bit of testing with them, but I don't have a ton of time today. Rotfly is 90 speed, yeah, which for Nurgle is really good. Obviously, Nurgle lacking in mobility. The Rotfly units, the Plague drones, Furies obviously are available to all Chaos factions. So the Furies, too, are pretty important for Nurgle. All of those flying mobility units are super important to be able to respond quickly to situations. Nurgling's also at 350 with Vanguard deployment. Pretty nice for reinforcing. Nurgle is different from the Horned Rat, although I probably allying with the Skaven as Nurgle and using the alliance mechanics to recruit some Plague Claw catapults and some Plague Monks is going to be 10 out of 10 on theming in my book, and just like it will feel good because like I know the Clan Pestilence and Nurgle worshippers, if you lore experts can correct me out there, but they do cooperate sometimes, right? Because they have similar-ish goals. I don't know. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it seems like perhaps they would cooperate. Anyway. Can you see Lore of Slaanesh? Yes! So, on the Aloris, we've got Lore of Slaanesh here. Lash of Slaanesh is a pretty cheap, all AP, but it doesn't do that much damage. It'll wind attack. I can even show you guys here. Upgraded, it just does more damage. Just doubles the amount of damage for only 50% more winds of magic, so it's definitely more efficient to overcast it, just in terms of raw damage output. Acquiescence, we saw a little bit there. Melee, defense, and speed debuff, helping your fast units be able to just 100% make sure they can kill something. Hysterical Frenzy does give Frenzy, which I don't love abilities that give Frenzy to, a Rampage rather, to your own unit, but it gives 40 melee attack and 25% armor piercing damage, which is huge, definitely. Can be useful in the right situation, I suppose. Pavane of Slaanesh is kind of like Fate of Buna. In fact, if we just go ahead and compare it 1-to-1 with Fate of Buna, so it's 63 to 125 damage, 125 to 250. Okay, so it's like half strength Fate of Buna, right? Fate of Buna is 22 winds of magic, whereas Pavane of Slaanesh is only 10, so it's half the winds of magic and about half the effect of Fate of Buna, but also causes Rampage on an enemy unit, which can really be quite helpful, especially casting on like an elite infantry or, an elite cavalry that's trying to cycle charge in order to get them to Rampage and stay in the fight. Strong versus 25 units, unit models or above, as with Fate of Buna. Slicing Shards is a bombardment, pretty large strike area, and it does 100% armor piercing again, so that's nice. Lore of Slaanesh definitely going to be very solid against armored targets, but the animation on that one is just awesome. Really, really cool. Phantasmagoria is a hard snare and leadership debuff. Your army ability, one of your army abilities as Slaanesh is also a hard snare, so yeah, it's pretty cool animation too. You see all these different phantasms of different Slaanesh creatures like appearing and attacking randomly. Definitely very confusing, but you can get high tier units from allied factions. Yes, you can. In my Cathay campaign, I think, yeah, I've recruited Sentinels from other Cathayan factions, and like on a Kislev campaign where I was allied with an Empire faction, I think I saw a Steam Tank on my allied recruitment in the late game. So yes, you can get late game allied units. Yes. Yeah, Lore of Slaanesh definitely looks very good. Lore of Nurgle we already kind of looked at, but we'll look at again. Minus 24 melee attack, 40% charge. We've got this one, which is, again, 100% AP. Stream of Corruption, 5 winds of magic. So just out of curiosity, this one's 6. And that one's only 5, right? So this one does 24 and confers poison, whereas this one only does 12. So maybe I'm missing something here, but it seems like Stream of Corruption is just straight up better. I mean, 6 meter radius, 3 second duration, 12 meter radius. Just 12 meter radius. Doesn't even say the duration. Okay, that's weird. I don't know. It seems like Stream Corruption is probably just better. But anyway, first of the leper, armor, and damage reflection, which damage reflection is good against multi-model units, but it's not very good against single entities from my experience, so this one can be good if you're about to take a big shock charge from like Demonettes or something, like a squishy multi-model unit. Rancid Visitations, again, single target compared to Spirit Leech. It's 16 Winds of Magic, so I would imagine it's going to be way more impactful than Spirit Leech. Let's actually look at Final Transmutation. 67 to 133 and 67 to 133. Okay, so it's like a single target Final Transmutation, whereas Final Transmutation is an AoE, obviously. This one only can target an individual unit, which is pretty decent. Let's see, 10-second duration. So the damage scaling is the same, but the duration is important to check, right? So this one has an 8-second duration base. Yeah, 16-second overcast. This one I'd imagine is the same. Yeah, 10-second duration, 20-second duration overcast. So there you go. Like a single target Final Transmutation, going to be good against Lords. Yeah, strong versus character is also just strong versus single combatant. But anyway, Blight Boil is a really strong explosion. Also, one of the most disgusting and awesome animations ever made by Creative Assembly. I mean, just look at it. Big old boil just blows up and does a huge amount of damage. Fleshy Abundance is the heal. That one you're going to see all the time. So, yeah, Lore of Tzeentch. I also kind of showed you guys all these ones in live there. So, yep. Whoops. No, it doesn't work like that. So it's actually a flat value per model, the damage reflection, as far as I'm aware. I did ask about this because it seemed like, yeah, obviously the damage reflection is going to be good against, but it's not, it's a flat value. So that damage reflection 24, basically what that means is each time you take a hit, that unit model receives 14 damage in return. So if you think about that, against a single entity, that's not going to do anything. But against like a unit of, I don't know, 100 infantry, if each infantry is taking 14 damage each time they make a hit, that is actually pretty impactful, and it will do quite a bit of damage to them. So it scales, you know, with unit models, like it really, and I think that's a good thing, because like you mentioned, damage reflection on a Dread Saurian or something with insane weapon strength could be completely broken, especially considering those units also tend to be very expensive. But as it is right now, it works very well, especially against squishy elite infantry. It is kind of the best use case for damage reflection. And yeah, keep in mind also that all halberd and spear units are also getting this charge reflect, which works in a similar way. It reflects a flat value, like it deals a flat value damage in return. I forget the actual value. I think it's like 5 damage or something relatively small like that to any unit that's charging them. So again, scales really well against multi-model units, but doesn't work quite as well against single entities. So there's that. Power of Darkness get changed at all? I don't really know. I don't really know if I'm supposed to look, so I'm going to not look. Yeah, we'll try and keep it within the context of, you know, Demons of Chaos and Game 3 for the time being. How viable are Soul Grinders against SEMs or air units? I mean, the Soul Grinders definitely seem to be pretty viable. We could, now that we've tested all the greater demons against the Bloodthirster, what we could do actually is test all the Soul Grinders, just to see. I mean, I would expect all the Soul Grinders to lose, but let's go ahead and start with the Slanesh Soul Grinder is definitely the best in individual melee, so let's get that. And we'll switch up the map again. Yes, Field of Chaos. Seems good. You know, that's a good question. I assume it's 100% armor piercing, but I actually don't know. That is an assumption to make, so I will ask about that. That is a good question. Let me make a note of that, actually. That is a good question, and I actually don't know the answer to it, so... Add to reserves. I think the Lore of Beast passive gives better Winds of Magic replenishment, and then the Death one actually gives power reserve now. So, okay, let's move in, And I expect that the Slaanesh Grinder should actually be able to do pretty well here, but let's see. Let's see if we can actually get a situation where I can get the Slaanesh Grinder to charge. Get a charge, I should say. Oh no. Looks like I'm going to eat the charge here. That's fine. See if I can kind of dodge charge here. Oh, no. Okay, this is actually what I wanted. And again, this is not exactly totally fair to the Keeper of Secrets that we tested before because I am getting a rear charge here. Actually getting my charge bonus, but... Okay, so the Bloodthirster turns around. Ooh, that's a big stagger animation. We need to come... Nope, nope, nope. Okay, I don't have enough for that one yet. Let's come start dealing with the Herald. Make this a fair fight. Nice. Okay, so yeah, Slaanesh Soul Grinder seems to be doing very well against the Bloodthirster so far. Keep in mind, though, that Warriors of Khorne are very likely to come into this matchup with a bunch of halberds. So, again, infantry support-wise, it's hard to say, but Soul Grinder seems to be doing very, very well here. That anti-large AP, just straight up more weapon strength, too, than the Bloodthirster. The Soporific Musk kind of evens out the difference in stats. And yeah, maybe if the Bloodthirster had been able to get the charge, that would have turned out differently. But okay, so in actual melee combat, yes, the Soul Grinder of Slaanesh is much better than the Keeper of Secrets. At least at fighting, you know, another monster. Let's use that Phantasmagoria here. Probably won't even get to see the animation in time because this guy's gonna... Oh, there it is. See how it freezes him in place. Oh, we got a Fiend. We got a Demonette. Another Fiend. Or a Seeker. Fiend. Ah, oh, such a cool animation, man. I'm not 100% sure on that Cape Fury right now. I'm on Ultra Unit settings. I have the unit detail on high and on the texture details on Ultra, but everything else is set pretty much to low or medium. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if the Bloodthirster is really cost effective. I think it might be too expensive, to be honest, but the Slaanesh Grinder was able to do very well there. Let's swap it out for the Tzeentch Grinder and see if we get some initial volleys. I would expect the Tzeentch Grinder to lose in melee, but because the Soporific Musk and the anti-large bonus, I think, makes a huge difference for the Slaanesh Grinder in melee. So let's see about this one. Fiends of Slaanesh, yes, that's a unit that I did not... I mean, we did test a tiny bit earlier, but I can do some more testing on Fiends, certainly. Aren't Soul Grinders like greater demons that died and then got their, like, bits put into a machine? Isn't that how a Soul Grinder works? Isn't it like a fallen demon prince that's like, oh, you can either get, you know, your soul devoured or you can turn into a robot? You guys can correct me again. I'm no lore expert, so... Oh, geez, I actually forgot to switch. I realize now I have the Slaanesh Grinder still. Does the Slaanesh Grinder have Devastating Flanker? Yes, it does. As Devastating Flanker, Strider, Soporific Musk, and Anti-Large, but no shooting attack. All the other grinders have a shooting attack, so this is the one I was looking for. Tzeentch Boy. So the Cataclysm spells, so in the campaign, when you fight battles in the Realm of Chaos, not the survival battles, but all the other battles in the Realm of Chaos, like if you were to, you know, find out the Kugath is in the Realm of Tzeentch with you, like I did on my stream the other day, and go attack him, then in that battle, you will get, if you have a spellcaster, you'll get access to some, like, huge, unique spells that you charge up by casting spells, and then you can use it to good effect. Anyway. Okay. Oh, that makes sense, Draymond. Thank you for your lore update. It takes a long time for them to rebuild, so they can rebuild faster with the machine. Okay, makes sense. So, okay, you see how he throws kind of like 3 little jabs? Magical jabs. Oh, yeah. Let's get some close-ups of him doing so. The Zinch Grinder definitely looks like very cyberpunk. Ah, such a cool attack animation, honestly.
Demon Prince! I'm moving. Chaos comes. Move! Witness me.
Okay, so we did some damage there on the approach, but let's see. I would imagine the barrier is going to get cleaved through pretty quickly here. Yeah, let's see. So far, the Soul Grinder of Zinch has been stagger locked, and this is the other thing, again, about single entity testing. It involves a lot of RNG, so if you really want accurate testing, you've got to have 2 players and to take like 6 to 10 of each unit, and even then, there's still a degree of variability that can affect the outcome of the tests, so far, though, it seems pretty good. Bloodthirster is actually not making great contact anymore with the Soul Grinder, so he may start to get some barrier replenishment soon. The Soul Grinder can't start making some hits. Oh, he is making hits, though. Okay. Or if the Bloodthirster, sorry. Oof. Nice little counterattack there. Ooh, nice little counterattack there. Pretty cool stuff. Oh, that's actually a matched animation. Wow, look at that. That's cool. I'm not winning, though. Definitely not winning. Yeah, this is more what I expected. I mean, I guess the Slanesh Grinder really just punches way above its weight class. Probably should be 2,000, to be honest. If they don't claim enough souls in time, they remain in their twisted mechanical forms, their minds devolve. Many have come close with singular souls. Interesting. Interesting. They sacrifice their true name to the Soul Forge. Okay. They fight to reclaim those souls forever. Okay, that's kind of cool. Makes sense. And we get demon robots as a result. God-specific demon robots, which is cool. Is Nurgle good? Yes, Nurgle's very good. Again, I said this in the chat before the stream, and I'll say it here now. All of the demon factions are good at what they're supposed to do, right? Oops, I casted both of those on the same guy. Didn't mean to do that. So Nurgle is great at tanking, right? Huge HP pools, very slow. Zinch, very strong shooting and magic, but pretty flimsy in an actual fight. Khorne, very strong in just a face-first fight. Slanesh, super fast and very good in a flanking or rear attack, but not so good in a headlong charge. So I would say all of the Chaos factions follow their sort of design very well, and they all sort of fulfill that. Anyway, we're having some weird bugging here. This is a bug that I hope gets addressed before launch, which is that flying single entities, it seems like especially the demon types, can have a hard time landing against a stationary single entity.
Keep moving. Striding out.
So kind of hilarious, to be honest, but... Oh, there we go. He landed.
Chaos unleashed.
And Lore of Zinch doesn't actually have any good buffs or debuffs, so I might end up losing here with this Bloodthirster, but we'll see. Probably not. Get a little power recharge, just because. No flying, no range. It's a big sacrifice for the Slanesh Grinder, though. It's true. It's true. Well, I mean, they do have Furies. They do have one flying unit, which is Furies, which is very important. And actually, yeah, Slanesh Furies are, I would say, for Slanesh and Nurgle and Khorne and Zinch, to be honest, all of them, Furies are important. But, yeah. Looks like my boy's about to go down here. So the Bloodthirster actually performed as it was supposed to that time and killed a bunch of monsters.
Champion of
Nice. I mean, it was very close, but nice. They're going to come in with Forsaken, Spawn, Toads. Yeah, it's true. That is a good point. They do have quite a few units within that, like, 40 to 50 speed range. And, like, Nurglings themselves are 36 speed, right? So it's mostly just the Plague Bearers that are painfully slow. But they are super strong as well. I mean, they have a ridiculous HP pool. Anyone who wants to can do a fun, you know, play-along activity. For those of you guys at home watching on your PC, open up Warhammer 2 right now. Just go ahead. Open up Warhammer 2. Make sure your settings, your unit settings are set to Ultra, so you're on Ultra unit sizes. And then try and find a unit that has more HP, an infantry unit that has more HP than the Plague Bearers or the Exalted Plague Bearers. Heck, even just the regular Plague Bearers, 1160. I challenge you to find me one unit that has this much HP in Warhammer 2, an infantry unit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Anyway. So, someone else wanted me to test some more Fiends. We can do that, but I do want to finish up with the Soul Grinders first. The Nurgle one, I think we kind of know how this guy's going to perform. His attack is more anti-infantry, anti-cavalry, his shooting attack anyway, so I don't think it's going to perform any better than the Nurgle, or sorry, the Zinch Grinder, although I guess it can heal, so... Although, again, the healing will be mitigated somewhat by the fact that he'll be on fire from the Bloodthirster's attack. So let's actually not. And then we'll finish up with the Grinder. This is a good fight, right? Because if the Grinder can't beat the Bloodthirster, if the Grinder does beat the Bloodthirster, then we have some issues, right? Corn's got some issues. Already given up. Zombies are close. Deckhand mobs. Yeah. It's true. They do have a lot. 23 speed is worse than Dwarf Infantry. It's true. I think it's slower than zombies too, actually. So, okay.
Of course.
The Corn Bro here is ready to go. He has Gore Feast, which is pretty strong, actually, for a big flying single entity. Big flying world beater, you know, anti-large single entity.
Demon Prince! Chaos unleashed!
Is he actually just hovering? Oh no, he's landed now. Okay.
I'm moving.
Warhammer 1 and 2 faction stats, 1-for-1 for Warhammer 3. As far as I know, I mean, some stuff changed, like flaming damage, the spell resistance changing to magic resistance is a change also. But, oh, looks like we're having that bug again. Okay, everyone stay focused with your partner. And let's see. The Grinder actually has, like, slightly more base HP, maybe. But, of course, the anti-large bonus is on the Bloodthirster's favor. Soul Grinder has more base weapon strength and less attack and defense. So I would probably say the Bloodthirster has a pretty good chance of winning this, but they're close enough in stats that I think it could go either way. As the Demon Prince just pushes the poor Herald around. They're dancing. And in the meanwhile, yes, the Bloodthirster is winning slightly. This is kind of what I expected, to be honest. But the Bloodthirster, the Soul Grinder is definitely making a battle of it, and this is even without using any of the shotgun attack. Oh no! Oh no, the Herald got away. Yes, it is very close. Is this like 400 points worth of extra value on the Bloodthirster, though? I mean, the fact that it's flying is both a benefit and can be a downside as well, because again, remember, flying units cannot capture points in siege battles or survival mode or whatever. So it is very close, though, actually. Yeah. RNG going differently means that this is probably like a 60-40 advantage for the Bloodthirster, but he may lose sometimes. But it does look like a small advantage. I mean, they both just literally murdered each other, so that is pretty cost-effective for the Soul Grinder, actually. And my Demon Prince getting a little crazy there, disrupting the test, but that's okay. Cathay Infantry is not great. That's true. I mean, they're alright. They're not as good as Dwarf Infantry, and they're not as good as Chaos Infantry, so yeah. Chaos and Dwarfs both will still, and probably Chaos Dwarfs too eventually, will all have better infantry than Cathay, yes. I don't know if Cathay Infantry is even that much better than, like, Empire Infantry. They definitely have more armor, but I don't know. I mean, you're lacking, like, a good, like, Flagellant kind of equivalent, like a DPS infantry. You don't have any anti-infantry, like a greatsword, right? You do have anti-large AP, better halberds, armored halberds too, but I don't know. State troops are almost more cost-effective, I think. Peasant long spears are okay, but they don't have an option to take the missile block chance like the state troop spears do. And yeah, I don't know. I just Cathay is a weird one for me. I haven't figured out how to play them super well yet, I must admit. So, but all things considered, I mean, the Bloodthirster ended up losing there, but I think that's because my Prince of Slaughter got in there and contributed a little bit. But the Soul Grinder, very cost effective. Can see damage output wise, they're basically neck and neck. So yeah, unless you specifically, for Khorne right now, as the balance currently is, unless you specifically need the Bloodthirster for something, I think the Grinder does most of what you need from a single entity. It's great in combat, also has the hybrid utility of a shooting attack, so it doesn't always have to be in melee to be getting value back. It's grounded, so it can capture. And it's 400 points cheaper, too, so you're saving money in that way. But anyway, interesting. Very interesting. Should I look at the Beast of Nurgle? I haven't really tested him out too much. He is a cheap single entity. With AP, I mean, 300 weapon strength, regeneration, not the best stats in the world, but he also doesn't cause terror, which I thought he might, but also has an additional -5 melee attack, 10% speed aura, so like the Beast of Nurgle supporting some Plague Toads and some Nurglings as kind of like a little mobile force is really, really strong, right? Because you're getting the different debuffs and the poison and everything, so yeah, Beast of Nurgle. Let's try him out a little bit here. Let's bring something for Khorne. The Soul Grinder is going to absolutely destroy him. But let's take a Blood Shrine and see. We'll do this guy on the Blood Shrine, on the Blood Throne, and let's see how well the Beast of Nurgle does. And then with the rest there, we can just take some Khorne infantry. Cool. And then I am going to finish up the stream relatively soon. I wanted to get some more recording and such done today, so yeah, Cathay does lack strong cavalry. That is 100% true. Yes, you are right. Yeah, Empire is more versatile. Empire has much better mobility. Like, Cathay literally doesn't have any missile cav. They have very limited cavalry options whatsoever, whereas Empire has a good variety of excellent heavy cavalry. Plus, you have, you know, missile cavalry and missile chariots. So Cathay's lack of any mobile missile units is a big problem. Like, even the balloons are infantry speed, so it's not like they're really, you know, able to be a mobile missile unit. Like, yes, technically they're flying, but they can never land either, which means they are quite vulnerable. Anyway, go ahead and get this little brute force moving up. Beast of Nurgle is definitely one of my favorite unit models, probably my favorite individual unit model for Nurgle. Just look at this thing. Having a grand old time. Looks like something you might see in Monsters, Inc. 100%. Love it. Absolutely love it. And the toads, too, the plague toads. Giant death frogs. One-eyed death frogs. They look like they're having a grand old time. So, okay, let's charge one into the heavy infantry, one into the light infantry, and we'll keep the Beast of Nurgle close. Yeah, we do need to be in melee, and that Slime Trail also is a pretty tight area of effect, so realistically it's only going to be hitting the unit that they're in melee with, but Toads get the charge there. They're going to come in and start to batter those bloodletters. As we saw before, definitely pretty solid. And, I mean, this is a, 950 points, or what is that, 1,000 actually, points of, Nurglings plus Toads. So I would hope they do quite well here. But let's see, Beast of Nurgle. Yeah, this might actually be a little bit too much for us to effectively deal with, but we can always get a heal. Oh, Demon Prince, I didn't mean to actually land you. Whoops. Let's go ahead and, yeah, not doing too hot against the heavy infantry. Against the lighter infantry, definitely seems to be a bit better, but let's go ahead and, yep, we lost out already on this side. Let's put a Blight Boil down, just for fun. Right on top of Beast. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, the value on that was probably quite good. Is he actually doing anything, though? The Herald's kind of beating him in melee, which maybe to be expected, to be honest. But, yeah, considering he's only 800 points. And, like, in a 2v1 here, him being a cheap single entity to help contribute to these fights does definitely benefit him. Maybe not the best test to show off his abilities, to be honest. I mean, it is an 800 cost single entity, right? Let's go ahead and pop the heal on him. Even though he has innate regeneration, he's taking additional fire damage from the Herald, and also getting his healing nerfed. So we'll pop Fleshy Abundance there. Hope that he can stay alive. He's healing through it right now. But, man, you see how long those Toads were able to hold out, even the fact that they were losing that engagement so decisively. Yeah, Khorne's probably not the best faction to take the Beast of Nurgle against, to be honest, because of the fire damage and just the good sustained fight. Yeah, Beast of Nurgle is going to be a lot more useful against, like, Cafe, for example, some other factions. We could maybe even do some testing versus Cafe, but I don't know how totally necessary it would be. See, we can also pop this army ability heal, Fecundity, 0.8 hit points per second, and also goes to, well, -1 hit point per second, and will spread to friendly units within 30 meters. Affects up to 5 units, so like you can see here that the Fecundity comes in and hits Grand Vomitus as well, so it is not exactly an AoE heal, but it is kind of an AoE heal. I guess it is, to be honest, an AoE heal. But, yeah, having pretty strong army ability like that definitely benefits Nurgle pretty greatly. Okay, so that's the difference in the difference between this and the Lash of Slaanesh is the fact that, yeah, this one has a much bigger kind of attack area. But this Herald of Khorne regenerating HP the whole time through Gore Feast is also not helping my situation here. Fire damage affects all healing. It affects healing from spells, it affects healing from abilities, from passive regeneration sources. It affects all healing sources. I mean, I love how you guys are just prejudging it already. Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely wait until you see some actual PvP to say whether Nurgle's trash or not. I think Nurgle's going to be really, really strong, but there are certain things, certain reasons why. Yeah. Some of the characters that I'm not allowed to show you right now have some really good abilities that may change your perception a little bit. Because, again, you're not getting the full roster here. You're not getting Forsaken and Spawn of Nurgle, which are two very important units for them. You're not getting the Exalted Great Unclean One or the Herald of Nurgle. Again, two very important characters for them. So you're really not getting the full picture in this testing. And again, I think this is not a good situation for the Beast of Nurgle. Like, I admit, in hindsight, this is not a matchup I would probably take the Beast of Nurgle in. I might take one. I don't know. The thing is, it's so cheap as a single entity to kind of come in and sustain, and it was able to get up to its healing cap, right? So, again, being able to hold a capture point, like just being able to tank damage for a long time, is a huge benefit in this game, more so than it was in Total War Warhammer 2. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, they're going to be very good at outgrinding people. Definitely. Definitely. Demons of Chaos are not going to be available for ranked matchmaking or for tournaments. The reason being is that their roster, some of the combinations are truly broken. Like, well and truly broken. So, yeah, you won't be seeing Demons of Chaos in ranked matchmaking, and most likely not in most tournaments as well. Nice. Got the heal again, so we can just continue to heal Vomitus here. And at this point, my Demon Prince can probably, Vomitus here can just finish this off. Let's see, if I really get like a nice sweaty placement on these guys. Yeah, that's pretty legit damage considering how cheap of a spell that is, and it also applies poison. Well, there are a few things going for the Khorne infantry here. Number one is, legitimately, I've been testing against Warriors of Khorne with shields, and in general, I would say Warriors of Khorne are going to be the best mid-tier heavy infantry in the game. Like, just, that's not really too hard to see when you look at their stats. I mean, 100 armor, great leadership, pretty slow, but 36 attack goes up by 8, right, with the Frenzy. Frenzy also gives them more charge bonus and weapon damage. Pretty decent melee defense. Not as good as the regular Warriors of Chaos, but still, only 750 points. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really expect the Plague Toads and the Nurglings to win. I thought they would do pretty well against the Plague Bearers, or sorry, the Bloodletters, which they did, but once the reinforcements came in, again, like, these guys don't have a lot of armor, they don't have that great a melee defense. It'd be a better fit to probably just try and take Plague Bearers there and tank with that. But again, we're also missing, like, the Forsaken of Nurgle, the Spawn of Nurgle, some other units. If you think about Spawn, too, one of Spawn's main weaknesses is they're somewhat squishy in terms of defense, but even if you don't have regeneration, if you have healing spells to continue to sustain your Spawn, you know, that could potentially be quite powerful. So, yeah. Yeah, when the Great Unclean One literally takes a dump on your unit, like actually physically takes a dump on your unit, then you should reconsider. I agree. I mean, no, I should say, my correction, the Demons of Chaos Undivided are not going to be in ranked and multiplayer. Khorne, like Khorne specifically will be, right? Like Nurgle, Kislev, or sorry, Tzeentch, Slaanesh, the Monogod factions will be in ranked matchmaking, but the Demons of Chaos Undivided single faction will not. Sorry. Aren't Flamers way too low? 3,000 on Ultra? I mean, they have Barrier, and here's the other thing. You get like 2 volleys from them into the right unit, and they paid for themselves instantly. Like, their missile damage is so extreme that even if they only do a couple of volleys, they can pay for themselves in just a couple of volleys. Like, literally. It's that ridiculous. So, yes, they are very squishy, but if they were any more tanky, I think they'd be ridiculously OP, because their shooting attack is super, super strong. Like, just Like, it makes Iron Drakes look like chumps, you know? You know what I'm saying? Like, all the Skaven's weapons teams wish they had this kind of DPS. The only way you could get this DPS from a Skaven's weapons team is if you hit a mortar on literally 20 units at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like... yeah, so schedule for release info. 27th is when multiplayer begins. And we can start showing as well Nurgle and Tzeentch gameplay. So you'll be getting, you know, Khorne, Cathay, Nurgle, and Tzeentch. And then a week after that, Kislev joins the fight. That's, what, February 2nd, I believe? And then a week after that, Slaanesh joins in. And then, like, 5 days later, Ogres join in. So, yeah, the schedule forthcoming is multiplayer comes with Tzeentch and Nurgle next. Then we add Kislev in a week after. Then we add Slaanesh, and then Ogres. So that's, yeah. And post, like, once the 27th hits, from then on out, I'm going to be releasing primarily multiplayer content. I will continue the campaign streams when I have the option to, but I'm going to prioritize, obviously, multiplayer after that time. So, yeah, again, all of the demon factions, and I can't stress this enough, in my experience, all of the demon factions do what they say they're supposed to do very well. Slaanesh is ludicrously fast, hits hard on the flanks and rear, but won't stand up in a sustained fight. Khorne is just straight up the best in a direct melee, but lacks, and they have spell resistance too, but lacks magic. Nurgle is very slow, but extremely tanky with massive HP pools and lots of healing. You've got then Tzeentch, which is the shooting, just crazy DPS shooting and magic, but again, sort of flimsy in melee, like really pretty poor melee power. So I would say all the demons fit their billing, the design perfectly in terms of their playstyle. So whatever playstyle you prefer, like for me, I found Tzeentch is tricky. It requires really good micro and decision making, but it's very fun and rewarding. Nurgle is a little bit too slow for me personally. Slaanesh is fast, but also, you know, if you have meat hands like me sometimes and you miss micro, your units can die super fast. So probably for me, Khorne and Tzeentch are actually the two demon factions I prefer to play right now, just personally. But again, they all do what they're supposed to do very well. Well, Simon, when the game comes out, feel free to join tournaments and just smash every single Nurgle player that you come across. If you think that that's the case, feel free to do so. So Tzeentch plays like Tzeentch. Exactly. Tzeentch is fun. Tzeentch is very fun and super strong, but tricky. You have to have good target priority, which is definitely a skill. Any dwarf player can tell you. Target priority is 100% a skill. You gotta have good winds of magic usage. You gotta be on top of your micro, like cycle charging, because the barrier will protect you a little bit, but not much. And once the barrier is gone, most of your units will just die and lose in combat. So, how are Slaanesh units? They're pretty good. I can only show you the Slaanesh demons right now. But, I mean, demonettes, again, if you do what they're intended to do and use them in a side or rear charge, especially against any armored units, they'll do a ton of damage. Same thing with the chariots. Like, we did some tests earlier with the chariots. If you rewind, you can see me running the Hellflares and the Secret Chariots into a bunch of Khorne infantry. Yeah, Slaanesh is fast, ludicrously fast. Like 80 speed on foot for a quote-unquote foot for a giant, you know, high-tier monster. Like 54 speed for infantry. I think Death Runners might be the only ones that can possibly come close to Demonettes in terms of raw speed. Like, most infantry can't cycle charge. Demonettes can legitimately, as infantry, cycle charge. Most other infantry in the game. Like, no problem. So, plus, speaking of Death Runners, man, Skaven infantry are going to have a pretty bad time against demons, I feel. Like your Plague Monks and Death Runners and Eshin Triads all rely on physical resistance. All these demon infantry deal magic damage. That's going to be nasty. But anyway. I feel like Nurgle will hard counter counts. The only problem with Nurgle right now is that they don't have any anti-large. Literally 0 anti-large. I would say that's their biggest weakness, and the fact that they're super slow, obviously. But the thing is, even against large armored units, like, you can just grind them down through attrition. You know, if you get your high weapon damage units, because you think about, like, yeah, they don't have the best melee attack, but 48 weapon strength on a 750 cost unit, that's like, you know, Saurus, right? Saurus, one of the main reasons why Saurus are so good is because they're high weapon strength. So if you can get these guys a melee attack buff, they will trade very well into most units, even armored units. You know, especially if you can get like some Armor Sundering or something with Lore of Death, you know, maybe a little Soul Blight or something. Soul Blight also lowering your opponent's weapon damage, allowing your units to tank that much longer. Pretty decent, actually. Some nice synergy potential there I could see directly for Plague Bears. But, yeah. Nurgle's going to be fine, guys. Trust me. Missiles gonna shoot them in the back. Well, I mean, you don't have a missile block chance, so it doesn't matter anyway. And, I mean, good luck protecting missile units against Slaanesh. That's what I'll say. I mean, these chariots are 100 speed. Seekers of Slaanesh, the Slaaneshi cavalry is 100 speed. Their infantry are 44 speed, right? I mean, you have Furies, which are also, again, 110 speed. Fiends are 95 speed. So, look, all I'm saying is, stationary missile units against Slaanesh are at extreme risk pretty much at all times. Like, your standard archers, crossbowmen, gunners that are just standing there on foot. Good luck. Like, that's all. Good luck protecting them. That's all I'll say. Good luck protecting them. Yeah, and again, Stickman brings up a good point. Kugath, you know, the legendary Demon Lords are also not factored into the discussion today because we've only been looking at Demons of Chaos, which don't have access to the named greater Demon Lords, right? Inkari, Kugath. Skarbrand we can look at, actually. If I come over here to Khorne. Skarbrand's pretty solid. One thing he has over the regular Bloodthirster is that he's not flying. It's both an advantage and a disadvantage. It's an advantage because Skarbrand can capture points, and, you know, he can just continuously blend through infantry on the ground and really control space better, whereas the Exalted Bloodthirster is better for, like, moving, you know, taking advantage of that flying mobility to move back and forth between different areas, try and get that terror shock damage, you know, spread across the battlefield. So, again, Exalted Bloodthirster better for mobility, Skarbrand better for holding a position, definitely. Yes, Grail Knights are going to be very good against demons. That's a good point. Grail Knights have magic attacks. Like Blade Singers for Wood Elves, the new infantry they added in the last update, they have magic attacks. They're going to be really good against demons. Ethereals are not, though. Ethereals will die hard to demons because they don't have enough HP. But, you know, like your Mortis Engine effect for the Mortis Engine, obviously, but like for the Skaven, the Bell too, or sorry, not the Bell, the Furnace, the Plague Furnace, those effects are going to be really strong against demons. Spell resistance, I should note. So spell resistance affects all spells and abilities which deal magic damage, right? So if you think about, if I go to the spell browser here, which I can't with Khorne, obviously. If we go into the spell browser here, and what was I even going to look at? I totally lost my train of thought. Anyway, Oh yeah, so spells and abilities, that's right. So if we look here, pretty much all spells which deal damage, deal magical damage, right? Like, you look at pretty much anything, and if any of the old stuff, any of the new stuff, it's going to say it deals magic damage, right? There is some exceptions, though. I believe Rune of Wrath and Ruin actually deals physical fire damage. So, like, this is one, and I would need to double-check to clarify, but assuming what I was told is correct, this Rune of Wrath and Ruin will not be subject to spell resistance because it doesn't actually deal magic damage, right? Whereas, again, like, you know, all of these ones obviously deal magic and fire damage, both. You know, again, magic damage. And you would imagine, like, Penumbral Pendulum, again, right? Magic damage. So, almost all spells and abilities which deal damage will be subject to spell resistance, but not all. There are some important exceptions, like Rune of Wrath and Ruin, which will be very good against all Khorne infantry, no doubt. It's going to be an interesting matchup, though. I don't think the Dwarves will have a good time in that matchup at all, but I actually think probably Khorne's going to be better against Dwarfs than Slaanesh. I think Slaanesh is just a little bit too flimsy. Dwarfs will be able to out-sustain them, but obviously this is all just speculation at this point. Sisters of Avalorn will go crazy hard on demons. Yes. Yep, Sisters of Avalorn. Wood Elves are going to have an interesting time. Against Khorne, they're going to have a bad time. And probably against Tzeentch, I don't know. You could maybe outshoot Tzeentch, which will put him into a really uncomfortable situation. But, like, Khorne, I think, will be good against Wood Elves. But, like, Slaanesh and definitely Nurgle is going to have a pretty bad time against Wood Elves with all the magic damage on their bows and, you know, all the Forest Spirit units having magic damage. It's going to be interesting. I really can't wait for the integration. But for today, that is all. If any of you guys have any last-minute questions, be sure to get them in now. I'm going to be tying up here. We'll finish out with the requested Fiends test. So let's get in here and get some Fiends. And let's get good old Caress back in here. And we'll keep the same infantry force. Yeah, they do have physical resistance, but again, 80 armor. The Blade Singers too, the fact that they have the high weapon damage stance that puts them up to like 50 plus weapon damage plus anti-infantry, that is going to be very good against the demons, because none of the demon infantry is armored, right? So the high weapon damage stance, or like even berserkers, they don't necessarily have magic damage, but just like high weapon damage overall should trade pretty well into most demon infantry. Yeah, I'm stoked, not gonna lie. Stoked for the integration to see how things end up panning out, but Starfire Shafts no longer deal magic damage. They used to, but Starfire Shafts are now only fire. The Hagbane tips still deal magic damage, though. And again, you don't need AP against demons. Demons, I mean, other than like a Bloodthirster or a Soul Grinder, demons don't really have armor. So, like, the Hagbane tips, the poison magic damage of the Hagbane tips is going to be the go-to, for sure, for Glade Guards. And, like, same thing with your Skirmish Cavalry. Excuse me, the Glade Riders with Hagbane tips as well, probably going to be very solid here, but yeah, the Fiends, again, this is not ideal because they're charging directly into the front, and with Slaanesh, you always want to be getting a side or rear charge, but considering, you know, how this infantry fared before, we saw how well they did against that Nurgle stuff, but only 30 armor here. Again, 36 to 36 on stats is not that great, but that Soporific Musk means that 39-35 for the Chaos Warriors stats, so it is quite a bit more even. This unit of Fiends here kind of getting bunched up around the Heralds. Not ideal, but they actually were doing some pretty good damage to him, to be honest. Yeah, this unit kind of having to fight two, like the Chaos Warriors and the Bloodletters at the same time. I would expect them to probably lose, but this unit right here, you can see how they're taking actually relatively very little damage. It's hard to find units on Slaanesh's roster that can tank, but Fiends, in the right circumstance, can tank. They're still very squishy to missile fire, and like if they were to have like some, you know, even like the Flesh Hounds, something with a good charge bonus to come in and rear charge the Fiends, they would definitely have some problems. But as it is, we are going to eventually pull out of this fight as it starts to turn against me. That's the other benefit, too. 95 speed for a hard-hitting monstrous infantry like this. And again, something else that I've mentioned a couple times, I'll mention it again, monstrous infantry count as infantry as far as capturing points go. And I don't know exactly the values for like siege battles and survival battles, but infantry and cavalry and lords and heroes, I believe, all have different capture strength values. So, like monstrous infantry counting as infantry should be a big benefit to them to that effect. Go ahead and just slow those Chaos Warriors with our Noble Army ability there. Yeah, Fiends are definitely very solid. We did end up losing a unit there, but again, we can just cycle charge these guys once the Demon Prince is in. Let's get a little slicing shards in here just for fun too. Oof, the Nurgle or the motorcycle just blew up. Oh, are we gonna get army losses? I think we're gonna get army lost. That's fine. Oof, pretty good damage. Considering it was not like full contact, that was pretty good damage. That slicing shards, I think, is going to be pretty good in general. Yes. You guys want to see some close-up shots of the Fiends? Look at these things. These weird scorpion anteater things. They are so weird looking. They're definitely one of the strangest units in this game for sure. Like, you're not really sure. The attack animations, man, they just look so fluid and sleek. Nice. Wow, that attack animation's very flashy. The Demon Prince too. The sexy Demon Prince. So cool. So cool. I'm super stoked to start showing you guys multiplayer. But anyway. Yeah, the Fiends are really good. The fact that they're fast, they have the Soporific Musk, their attack animations are really strong. They have a lot going for them, definitely. I'm a big fan of the Fiends. And they're not too expensive either. Only 1,200 is really, or 1,300 rather, is really not a ton. It's pretty expensive. It's not crazy cheap, but it's not also ridiculously expensive. Like, they're not like, I don't know, Pimir Great Weapons or something, right? Oh, you already know what that mouth do, Rocket Boss. You already know. Maybe the Demonettes put the leggings on the Fiends. You ever consider that? Or maybe Slaanesh, you know, just blessed them to have leggings to begin with. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, to be honest. Anyway, that's all for me for today, folks. Thank you all so much for coming out. I know it's, again, don't take any of this testing as gospel. I wouldn't try and draw any conclusions from this. It's mostly just for entertainment purposes and to give you guys an idea of the unit's intended roles. Maybe some situations where they could perform well, some situations where they definitely won't perform well. A lot of variability though, so again, don't take anything as absolute gospel. But thank you all so much for coming out. That's going to be it for me for today. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to be back with more Total War Warhammer 3 of some kind tomorrow. I don't know exactly what we'll be doing yet, but be sure to subscribe if you're not already. Hit that bell notification button so when I upload videos or do live streams, you'll be notified. Thanks again.